Hello friends. Did you know nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy these stories, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps. Thank you for being here. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. My name is Harlan Greavy, and I've been driving these roads for 23 years. Wisconsin to Fargo, Fargo to Sioux Falls, and back again. Sometimes I rack up 3,000 miles in a week, sometimes less. But I know this route so well I could drive it with my eyes closed. Every diner, every rest stop, every exit is burned into my memory. That night started out like any other. At least, that's how it seemed. I was northbound on Highway 29 when Mona Trumbull's voice crackled through the CB at exactly 6:47 in the evening. "Harlan, you out there?" I grabbed the handset. "Right here, Mona. Highway 29 northbound, about 40 miles north of Eau Claire. Meteorology just sent out a blizzard warning, northern Wisconsin and southern Minnesota, starting around midnight. They're calling for 2 to 3 inches per hour. Whiteout conditions expected." I glanced at my windshield. The sky was clear, stars just starting to appear in the darkening blue. "Looks clean from here, Mona. I've got 4 hours to Fargo. Should be fine. Just be careful, Harlan. This one's looking serious. Always am." I hung up the CB and the cab settled into that familiar silence. The diesel engine's steady rumble, the tires humming on cold asphalt, the soft glow from the dashboard. I've always loved these sounds. They're meditative in a way. You think about the past, about family, about nothing at all sometimes. The first snowflakes started around 8 o'clock. Light at first, delicate little things that hit the windshield and melted on contact. I flicked on the wipers. The cabin was warm, but outside the temperature gauge read 12 below. No wind yet. By 8:30, the snow was coming down harder. Thicker flakes, faster, building up on the windshield between wiper sweeps. My visibility dropped, but nothing I couldn't handle. I could see a few cars ahead, a couple of other trucks. Their taillights glowed red through the falling snow. I wasn't alone out here. At 9:15, the wind hit. It started with a gentle push, my trailer swaying slightly. Then a harder gust from the side, shoving the whole rig to the right. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Here we go," I muttered to myself. The wind picked up every minute after that. Snow was flying horizontal now, my headlights cutting into a solid white wall. The taillights ahead of me disappeared. I dropped my speed to 45. When you're hauling 40,000 pounds in conditions like this, one mistake is all it takes. One patch of ice, one overcorrection, and that trailer will spin you right off the road. At 9:40, I saw mile marker 198. The green sign appeared briefly through a gap in the snow, white numbers clear for just a second. I did the mental math. Fargo was still about 100 to 20 miles out. 2.5 hours, maybe 3 at this speed. Then the snow closed in again, complete whiteout. I couldn't see 10 feet in front of my hood. I dropped to 35, fighting the wheel just to keep it between the lines. My heart was pounding harder than I wanted to admit. In conditions like this, you're not just driving, you're surviving. I saw mile marker 203 at 9:55, 5 more miles. Slow progress, but progress. The wind was screaming now, shaking the whole truck, and I could hear debris hitting the side of the trailer. At 10:10, I saw it. Mile marker 213, green sign, white numbers. 213. I stared at it for the split second it was visible, then it vanished into the snow. Something felt wrong. From 203 to 213 should be 10 miles. At this speed, that's at least 15, maybe 20 minutes. I checked my watch. 10:10. I'd seen marker 203 at 9:55. That was only 15 minutes ago. The timing was right, but something about it bothered me. The marker had been too clear. Everything else was buried in snow, but that sign had been perfectly visible, like the storm parted just for me to see it. I kept driving. The wind was relentless now, a constant howl that made the cab feel like it was inside a living thing. The wipers were struggling, ice building up on the blades. I cranked the defroster to maximum. At 10:35, I saw another marker. Mile marker 213. My hands went cold. I'd just passed 213 25 minutes ago. At 35 miles per hour, I should be at least 15 miles past it by now. I should be seeing marker 228 or higher. But there it was again. The same green sign, the same white numbers, appearing through the snow with that same unnatural clarity. I grabbed the CB. "This is Harlan Greevy northbound on 29. Anyone copy?" Static. "Any truckers northbound on Highway 29, this is Harlan. Come back if you can hear me." More static, then something that might have been a voice, distorted and broken up. "Back." I keyed the mic. "Say again?" "I didn't copy that." "Turn back." The voice faded into static and silence. I tried a few more times, but got nothing. Just the endless white noise of dead air. I kept driving, my mind racing. GPS would sort this out. I pulled up the navigation screen on my dashboard. The blue dot showing my location was moving steadily north on Highway 29. The mile markers on the GPS showed I should be approaching marker 220. But I'd just seen 213 again. At 11 o'clock, I saw it a third time. Mile marker 213. This time I slowed down even more, crawling past at maybe 20 miles per hour, staring at that sign as long as I could. It looked completely normal. Standard highway marker, proper reflective coating, right size and shape. But it shouldn't be here. I should be miles past this point. The CB crackled to life on its own. "Turn back, Harlan." My skin went ice cold. The voice knew my name. "Who is this?" I demanded into the mic. 213, turn back. Identify yourself. What station are you broadcasting from?" But there was only static. That same empty hiss of nothing. I checked my GPS again. According to the system, I was at mile marker 223, making steady progress north. But I'd just passed 213 for the third time. Either my GPS was broken, or the signs were wrong, or something else was happening that I couldn't explain. The rational part of my brain tried to find answers. Maybe the storm had knocked down markers and they'd put up temporary ones in the wrong spots. Maybe I was more tired than I realized and reading the numbers wrong. Maybe my GPS had lost signal and was showing cached data. But none of those explanations felt right. At 11:20, the snow suddenly stopped. Not gradually. It just stopped, like someone had flipped a switch. 1 second I was in a complete whiteout, the next the air was clear. I could see stars overhead, bright and sharp in a black sky. The road stretched out in front of me, empty and silent. And there, about 100 yards ahead, I saw something on the shoulder. A figure, standing completely still. I slowed down, my foot hovering over the brake. As I got closer, I could see it was a person, or at least it looked like a person. They were facing away from the road, toward the empty fields that stretched out into darkness. They wore what looked like a heavy coat, but they weren't moving at all, not even swaying in the wind that was still battering my truck. I rolled down my window. "Hey, you need help?" The figure didn't move, didn't turn around, just stood there in the freezing cold, motionless. I brought the truck to a stop about 30 feet away and put on my hazard lights. Every instinct told me to keep driving, but I couldn't leave someone stranded out here. Not in these conditions. Not with the temperature at 12 below and falling. I climbed out of the cab, the cold hitting me like a physical blow. The wind was brutal, cutting through my jacket instantly. "Hey!" I shouted. "Are you okay?" I walked toward the figure, my boots crunching in the fresh snow. 20 feet away. 15. 10. The figure still hadn't moved. At 5 feet, I stopped. Something was very wrong. I couldn't see any footprints around the figure. The snow was smooth and undisturbed, like they'd been standing there for hours and the storm had covered their tracks. But the storm had just stopped seconds ago. "Hello?" My voice came out quieter than I intended. The figure turned its head, not the whole body, just the head, rotating slowly until I should have been able to see their face. But there was nothing. No face, no features. Just a dark, smooth surface where a face should be. I stumbled backward, my heart hammering. The figure took a step toward me, its movements jerky and unnatural. I turned and ran back to my truck, slipping in the snow, catching myself on the side of the trailer. I hauled myself back into the cab and slammed the door, locking it with shaking hands. I looked out the window. The figure was gone. The shoulder was empty, just smooth snow and darkness. I sat there for a full minute trying to catch my breath, telling myself I'd imagined it. The storm, the stress, the exhaustion. I'd seen something that wasn't there, but I know what I saw. I put the truck in gear and started driving again, my hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The GPS said I was at mile marker 225. I'd been stationary for a few minutes, so that made sense. Then I looked up and saw the next mile marker approaching. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I grabbed the CB. "Mona, this is Harlan. Mona, please respond." Static. "Anyone on this channel, this is Harlan Greavy, northbound on 29. I need assistance. Please respond." Nothing but that endless static hiss. The snow started again, even heavier than before. Within seconds, visibility dropped to 0. I was back in the whiteout, alone on a highway that didn't make sense, passing the same mile marker over and over while something without a face watched from the darkness. I kept the truck moving forward. What else could I do? Stopping meant freezing. Going back meant facing whatever I'd seen on that shoulder. The only option was forward, into the storm, past mile marker 213 as many times as it took to break free. At midnight, I'd passed it 6 more times. At 1 in the morning, I'd stopped counting. The CB kept crackling with that same message, sometimes clear, sometimes buried in static. Turn back, 213, turn back, and every few miles I'd see another figure standing on the shoulder, sometimes facing away, sometimes turned toward the road. Never moving when I looked directly at them, but always there, waiting in the snow. The GPS insisted I was making progress. The mile markers said otherwise. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, I started to wonder if I'd ever left Highway 29 at all. Or if this road went on forever, a loop I'd been driving for years without realizing it. Mile marker 213 appearing again and again, the same stretch of highway, the same storm, the same frozen figures watching from the darkness. My hands ached from gripping the wheel. My eyes burned from staring into the white. But I kept driving, because stopping wasn't an option. At 3:15, something changed. The storm lifted again, sudden and complete. The sky cleared, and I could see the road ahead for miles. No other vehicles. No lights from distant towns, just empty highway stretching into the dark. And in my headlights, directly ahead on the road, I saw all of them. Every figure I'd passed was standing in a line across both lanes. Dozens of them, maybe more, all facing my truck, all perfectly still. I slammed on the brakes. The truck shuddered and slid, the trailer fishtailing behind me. I fought the wheel, keeping it from jackknifing, bringing the whole rig to a stop about 50 feet from the line of figures. We stared at each other, me and them, across that stretch of frozen highway. Then, as one, they all turned and walked off the road, disappearing into the fields on either side. Within seconds they were gone, swallowed by the darkness. The CB crackled one final time. "Goodbye, Harlan," and then silence. I sat there, engine idling, watching the empty road. Slowly, carefully, I eased the truck forward, past where the figures had been standing, past mile marker 213 one final time. The next marker I saw was 214, then 215. The numbers started climbing normally. My GPS aligned with what I was seeing. The snow stayed light, manageable. By 4:30 in the morning, I was pulling into Fargo, exactly where I was supposed to be. I delivered my load the next day, went home to my apartment, called Mona and told her the delivery went fine. Weather was rough but manageable. I didn't tell her about mile marker 213. I didn't tell anyone. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. A week after that trip, I was back on the same route. Daytime run, clear weather, perfect conditions. I made a point to watch the mile markers carefully as I drove north. I never saw 213. The numbers jumped from 212 to 214, like 213 had never existed at all. I pulled over and checked every map I had. Digital, paper, old and new. Highway 29 in northern Wisconsin has never had a mile marker 213. The road curves at that point, and they skip the number. Always have. So what did I see that night? What sign kept appearing over and over in the storm? And those figures standing in the snow, where did they come from? I still drive this route twice a month. I always will. It's my job, my life. But when the weather turns bad and the snow starts to fall, I watch those mile markers very carefully. And sometimes, in the worst storms, I think I see it again. Mile marker 213, appearing in the whiteout for just a second, and I drive a little faster until it disappears. The thing about that night is that I tried to convince myself it didn't happen the way I remember. Human memory is fallible. Stress does strange things to perception. 23 years on the road, you're bound to have one night where exhaustion and weather combine to make you see things that aren't there. I told myself that story for 2 weeks, almost believed it. Then I got a call from Dex Malloran. Dex runs a truck repair shop outside of Tomah, about halfway between Eau Claire and the Minnesota border. I'd stopped there years ago with a blown tire, and we'd stayed friendly ever since. Good mechanic, better conversationalist. The kind of guy who knows everybody's business without being nosy about it. "Harlan," he said when I picked up. "You drove through that blizzard 3 weeks back, right? The big one, early November?" "Yeah, I was out in it. Why?" There was a pause. I could hear him breathing, like he was choosing his words carefully. "You notice anything strange that night?" My stomach dropped. "What kind of strange?" "Just anything unusual, anything that didn't make sense." I almost lied, almost told him everything was normal, just a rough storm, but something in his voice stopped me. "Why are you asking, Dex?" "Because I've had 3 drivers stop here in the past 2 weeks with the same story. They all drove through that storm on Highway 29, and they all saw something they can't explain." I sat down slowly. What did they see? Mile markers that shouldn't exist. Numbers repeating. One guy said he passed marker 187 8 times before the storm cleared. Another said she got stuck in a loop around marker 201, kept seeing the same rest area sign over and over. And the third, he trailed off. The third what? Said he saw people standing in the snow. Said they didn't have faces. The phone felt heavy in my hand. "Dex, I need to come see you." When? Now. The drive to Toma took 3 hours. I spent most of it going over that night again, trying to separate what I definitely saw from what I might have imagined. The mile marker 213 appearing over and over. That had to be real because I remembered checking it against my GPS, remembered the numbers not matching up. The figures on the shoulder, those were harder to trust. I'd been terrified, exhausted. The mind plays tricks. But Dex said other drivers had seen the same things. His shop was on the outskirts of Toma, a big metal building with 3 bays and a small office that smelled like coffee and motor oil. I found him under the hood of a Peterbilt, hands black with grease. Harlan. He wiped his hands on a rag and shook my hand. Thanks for coming. You said 3 drivers saw things in that storm. 4 now, counting you. He gestured toward the office. Come on, I want to show you something. Inside, he pulled out a large road map of Wisconsin and Minnesota, the old-fashioned kind that unfolds into a poster. Red circles marked various points along Highway 29. These are the spots where drivers reported anomalies, Dex said, pointing to the circles. Mile markers that repeat, signs that don't match their GPS, stretches of road that seem to go on forever. All during that same storm, all on the same night. I leaned over the map. There were at least a dozen red circles scattered along a 100-mile stretch of highway. What's causing this? I don't know. But here's what's interesting. He pulled out a different map, this one older and yellowed with age. This is from 1962. See this stretch of Highway 29? I looked where he was pointing. The route was different, following a slightly different path than the modern highway. They rerouted it? In 1971, built a new section that bypassed several small towns. The old route was decommissioned, most of it torn up and returned to farmland. He pointed to specific spots on the old map. But look at where the old route used to go. I followed his finger and felt my skin prickle. The old route passed directly through every spot marked with a red circle on the modern map. Not near them, through them. What are you saying, Dex? I'm saying that every driver who saw something strange that night was in a location where the old highway used to run. Like the storm opened up something, made the old road visible again. That's insane. Is it? You saw mile marker 213. I checked with the DOT. Highway 29 has never had a mile marker 213 in that location. You know why? He pulled out a third map. Because in 1971, that number was assigned to a marker on the old route. Right about here. His finger landed on a spot that didn't exist on modern maps. A section of highway that had been abandoned over 50 years ago. So what? The old road just appeared during the storm? Ghost highway? I don't know what to call it. But 4 drivers, all professionals with years of experience, all saw the same things in the same places on the same night. That's not mass hallucination. I thought about the figures I'd seen standing in the snow. Did anyone else report seeing people? Dex's expression darkened. 2 drivers mentioned figures on the roadside. Both described them the same way you did. Standing perfectly still, no footprints, no faces. One driver said when he stopped to check on one, it turned and looked at him. He said there was nothing there, just a blank space where the face should be. What did he do? Got back in his truck and drove like hell. Same as you, I'm guessing. I nodded slowly. You think those things were real? I think something was out there that night. Whether it was people or something else, I don't know. But here's what really worries me. He pulled out a folder full of newspaper clippings. I did some research after the second driver told me their story. In 1969, there was a massive accident on the old Highway 29. A blizzard just like the one we had 3 weeks ago. 7 vehicles pile up, including 2 trucks. 12 people died. He spread the clippings across the desk. Black and white photos showed twisted metal and emergency vehicles. One image showed a line of bodies covered in sheets, lying in the snow beside the road. The accident happened at mile marker 213 on the old road. They shut down the highway for 3 days to clear it. Some of the victims were never identified. Bodies so badly burned or crushed, they couldn't figure out who they were. I stared at the photos, a cold weight settling in my chest. You think those are the people we saw? I think something from that night in 1969 got trapped in that storm. And when the weather conditions matched up perfectly, 55 years later, it all happened again. The old road reappeared. The mile markers came back. And maybe the victims did too. That's impossible. So, is driving past the same mile marker 9 times in 3 hours, but you did it. I couldn't argue with that. I sank into a chair, my mind racing. Okay, say you're right. Say the storm somehow brought back the old highway. Why? And why that specific night? I don't know, but I've been tracking weather patterns, and that storm was unusual. It came out of nowhere, wasn't predicted by any of the models, hit with incredible intensity and then just stopped, like someone turned it off. The meteorologists I talked to said they'd never seen anything like it. What are we supposed to do with this information? Dex shrugged. I don't know. I just thought you should know you weren't alone out there. Other people saw what you saw. You're not crazy. That should have been comforting, but somehow it made things worse. If I'd been hallucinating, I could dismiss it. If other drivers had seen the same things, it meant something real had happened on Highway 29 that night. Something that defied explanation. I stayed at Dex's shop for another hour, going over the details with him. The other drivers had experienced variations of the same phenomenon. Repeating mile markers, GPS systems that showed one location while the signs showed another, stretches of road that seemed to loop endlessly. And the figures, always the figures standing motionless in the snow. One driver had taken photos. Dex showed them to me on his phone. Blurry images of empty highway falling snow. But in 2 of the photos you could see them. Dark shapes on the shoulder barely visible. The image quality was too poor to make out details, but they were there. Has anyone reported this to the police? I asked. One driver tried. State Patrol told him it was stress and exhaustion, sent him home to rest. Another called the DOT to report the mile marker issue. They checked their systems, said all the signs are in the right place, no problems reported. So nobody believes it. Nobody official, but truck drivers talk. Word spreads. Some guys are avoiding Highway 29 entirely now, taking alternate routes even if it adds hours to their trip. I thought about my next run. I was scheduled to drive the same route in 4 days. The idea made my stomach tight. I have to keep driving it, I said. It's my regular route. I can't just avoid it forever. I know. Just be careful. And if you see anything strange again, document it. Photos, video, anything you can get. Maybe if enough of us have evidence, someone will take this seriously. I drove home that evening thinking about the accident from 1969. 12 people dead, some of them never identified. Bodies burned beyond recognition. Had I seen them that night? Were those faceless figures the victims of a tragedy from over half a century ago, somehow caught in a loop, repeating their last moments every time the weather conditions aligned? It sounded insane, but I couldn't shake the image of them standing in the snow, all turned toward my truck watching me. That night, I dreamed about the old highway. I was driving through a blizzard, watching the mile markers count backward instead of forward. 213, 212, 211. The numbers descending as I moved forward, like I was traveling into the past instead of through space. Figures lined both sides of the road, hundreds of them, all motionless. As I passed, they turned to watch me, their blank faces tracking my movement. And then, one by one, they stepped onto the highway behind me, following my truck in a silent procession. I woke up at 3 in the morning, heart pounding. I couldn't get back to sleep. 4 days later, I was back on Highway 29. Clear weather, afternoon sun, perfect visibility. I told myself it would be fine. Whatever had happened that night 3 weeks ago, it was a freak occurrence. Lightning doesn't strike twice. I watched the mile markers carefully as I drove north. 198, 199, 200, 201, 202. The numbers climbed normally. No repeats, no anomalies. My GPS matched perfectly with what I saw on the signs. The stretch where 213 should have been came up around 4 in the afternoon. I held my breath as I approached, watching for any sign of it. Empty road. The number jumped, just like Dex had said. Mile marker 213 didn't exist on modern Highway 29. Never had, but I'd seen it. I knew I'd seen it. I pulled over at the next rest stop and sat for a while, drinking bad coffee from a vending machine. Other trucks came and went, drivers nodding at each other in that universal language of the road. Everything was normal, ordinary, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, not from the rest stop, but from somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't see. I finished my coffee and got back on the road. The rest of the trip to Fargo was uneventful. No strange mile markers, no figures in the snow, just a normal drive on a normal November afternoon. But when I got home that night, I found something in my truck that hadn't been there before. It was wedged behind the passenger seat, almost invisible in the gap. A small piece of metal, bent and twisted. At first, I thought it was just road debris that had somehow gotten into the cab. Then I looked closer and saw the numbers stamped into the metal. It was a piece of a mile marker sign. The paint was faded, the metal rusted and old. It looked like it had been torn from a post decades ago. I dropped it on the floor of my garage and stared at it for a long time. I hadn't stopped anywhere near mile marker 213 on this trip. I'd driven straight through. So how did a piece of it end up in my truck? Unless it had been there since that first night. Sitting in my cab for 3 weeks, waiting for me to notice it. I picked it up with shaking hands and put it in a box. Evidence, like Dex had said. Proof that something had happened. The next day, I called Dex and told him about it. He asked me to bring it by the shop. Said he wanted to show it to the other drivers, see if any of them had found anything similar. I never got the chance. That night, the box disappeared from my garage. I'd locked it in a cabinet, but when I checked the next morning, it was gone. The cabinet was still locked, no sign of forced entry. The metal fragment had simply vanished. I told myself someone must have broken in, though I had no idea how or why. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something had taken it back. The old road didn't want proof of its existence in our world. It had let me see it for one night, had allowed that piece of itself to slip through. But now it was taking back what belonged to it. I still drive Highway 29 twice a month. I watch the mile markers, watch for any sign of 213 appearing where it shouldn't be. I keep a camera running on my dashboard now, recording everything, just in case. So far, the road has been normal. The numbers climb in order, my GPS matches the signs, and I make it to Fargo without incident. But every time a storm rolls in, every time the snow starts to fall heavily and the wind picks up, I feel my hands tighten on the wheel. I watch the mile markers more carefully, and I listen for that voice on the CB telling me to turn back. Because I know it's still out there. The old Highway 29, the one that existed before the modern road. It's buried under fields and farmland now, but it's not gone. Not really. It's waiting for the right conditions, the perfect storm, to appear again. And next time, I might not be able to escape. Winter deepened, and I kept driving. December came with its short days and long nights, the kind of cold that makes metal brittle and diesel gel up if you're not careful. I ran my routes like always, Highway 29 north to Fargo and back, watching the snow pile up in the fields on either side of the road. I didn't see mile marker 213 again. The numbers stayed normal, predictable. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. The other drivers Dex had mentioned, I started running into them at truck stops. Not on purpose, just the way you do when you work the same routes long enough. You recognize faces, trucks, company logos. We'd nod at each other, maybe exchange a few words about weather or road conditions, but there was always that look, that moment of recognition that said, I know what you saw. One night in mid-December, I was fueling up outside of Wausau when a woman approached my truck. She was maybe 50, weathered face, eyes that had seen a lot of road. Her rig was an older Freightliner with Montana plates. "You're Harlan Greevy," she said. It wasn't a question. "That's right. Dex Malloran told me about you, said you saw the 213 marker." I looked around the parking lot. We were alone except for a couple of other trucks at the far end. "You saw it too?" "Mile marker 187 for me. Passed it 11 times in a row before the storm cleared. Thought I was losing my mind." She pulled out a phone and showed me a photo. It was dark and blurry, but I could make out a green mile marker sign in falling snow. 187. "I took that the 4th time I passed it," she said. "Wanted proof I wasn't imagining things. But look what happened when I tried to show it to my dispatcher." She swiped to the next photo. Same image, but the numbers on the sign were gone. Just a green rectangle with blank space where 187 should be, like someone had erased them. "The photo changed," she said. "I looked at it the next day and the numbers were just gone. I know what I photographed, but the image itself changed." "Did you find anything in your truck afterwards? Any physical evidence?" She shook her head. "Why?" I told her about the metal fragment with 213 stamped on it, how it had appeared in my cab and then vanished from a locked cabinet. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker. "We're not supposed to have proof," she said when I finished. "Whatever this is, it doesn't want evidence existing in our world. It shows itself, lets us experience it, but then it takes back anything that would prove it happened. Then, how do we convince anyone it's real? We don't, that's the point. We just have to live with knowing what we saw and hope it doesn't happen again." But it did happen again. Not to me, not yet. But 2 weeks before Christmas, a driver named Morrison went missing on Highway 29. He was hauling frozen goods from Minneapolis to Green Bay, a routine run he'd made hundreds of times. Left Minneapolis at 6 in the evening, should have been in Green Bay by midnight. When he didn't show up and didn't answer his phone, his company started calling around. The state patrol found his truck 3 days later, parked on the shoulder near mile marker 204. The engine was off, keys in the ignition. Morrison's phone, wallet, and jacket were still in the cab, but Morrison himself was gone. They searched the area for a week, brought in dogs, helicopters, volunteers from local towns. Nothing. It was like he'd stepped out of his truck and vanished into thin air. I heard about it through the driver network, that informal system of CB chatter and truck stop conversations that spreads news faster than any official channel. And I heard something else, too. Morrison had been talking on his CB right before he disappeared. The last transmission anyone heard from him was simple. Passing mile marker 213, weather's getting bad. But Highway 29 doesn't have a mile marker 213. When I heard that, I called Dex immediately. "Did you hear about Morrison?" "Yeah, I knew him actually. Good driver, 20 years experience. He said he was passing mile marker 213. There was a long silence. "I know." "Dex, what's happening out here?" "I think it's escalating. The first night in November it just showed itself. Let us see it." But Morrison didn't just see it. He went into it. Crossed over to wherever that old road actually exists. You're saying he's trapped on some ghost highway. I'm saying he's somewhere we can't reach. And I'm worried he won't be the last. I thought about the figures I'd seen standing in the snow. 12 people died in that 1969 accident. Were they stuck on that old road too? Caught in an endless loop waiting for someone to find them? "We need to do something," I said. "Like what? Go to the police and tell them there's a phantom highway that appears during storms? They'll think we're insane. Maybe we are. Maybe. But insane doesn't explain how 4 professional drivers saw the same impossible thing. And it doesn't explain where Morrison went." After that call, I started avoiding Highway 29 when weather looked bad. If there was any chance of snow, I'd take alternate routes, even if it added hours to my trip. My dispatcher complained about the delays, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to end up like Morrison. But you can't avoid the weather forever. Not when you drive for a living. On December 23rd, I was scheduled for a run to Fargo. The weather forecast looked fine. Mostly clear, with maybe some light snow in the evening. Nothing serious. I checked 3 different weather services to be sure. They were all wrong. The storm came out of nowhere, just like the one in November. I was 50 miles north of Eau Claire when the sky went dark and the snow started falling. Not gradually, but all at once, like someone had opened a valve in the clouds. Within 5 minutes, I was in a whiteout. Complete zero visibility, wind hammering the side of my truck. I slowed to a crawl, my heart already pounding, because I knew what this was. It was happening again. I grabbed the CB. "This is Harlan Greevy, northbound on 29. Any drivers in the area, please respond." Static. "Anyone copy? I'm in heavy weather near Eau Claire. Visibility 0. Nothing but that familiar hiss of empty air. I kept driving, watching the odometer, trying to calculate my position. If I was near Eau Claire, the next mile marker should be around 195. I'd know when I saw it. The sign appeared in my headlights. Mile marker 213. "No," I whispered. "Not again." I checked my GPS. According to the system, I was at mile marker 197, exactly where I should be. But the sign outside my window clearly showed 213. The CB crackled to life. "Harlan, can you hear me?" It was Morrison's voice. I'd never met him, but I knew it was him. I don't know how, I just knew. I grabbed the mic with shaking hands. "Morrison, is that you?" "Harlan, you need to turn around, right now. Don't go any further." "Where are you? Everyone's been looking for you." "I'm stuck, Harlan. I'm on the old road and I can't get off. I've been driving for 3 weeks, but I can't find the way back. Every mile marker is 213. Every exit leads back to the same highway. I'm trapped." My blood ran cold. "How do I help you?" "You don't. There's no help. But you can save yourself. Turn around before you pass 213. That's the threshold. Once you go past it, you're on the old road. You can't get back." I looked ahead through the snow. The road stretched out into whiteness, empty and waiting. Behind me, I could still see my own tire tracks. barely visible, but there. "I'm turning around," I said. "Good. Don't stop. Don't slow down. Get back to Eau Claire and stay off this highway until the storm passes. And Harlan, if you see them, don't look at their faces." "See who?" But the CB was already dead, just static again. I was already executing a careful turn, using every bit of the road to swing my trailer around. It's dangerous to turn a truck on a highway, especially in these conditions, but staying was more dangerous. That's when I saw them. They were lined up on both shoulders, just like before. Dozens of figures standing motionless in the falling snow. But this time they were closer to the road, close enough that my headlights illuminated them clearly. They wore clothes from different eras, some in modern winter gear, others in jackets and coats from decades past. One wore what looked like a 1960s-style parka. Another had on a leather jacket that could have been from the 70s. They were all drivers, people who'd gotten trapped on this road over the years, lost in the storm, unable to find their way back. And Morrison's warning echoed in my head. Don't look at their faces. But I couldn't help it. As I completed my turn and started driving back south, my headlights swept across their faces. They were blank, smooth. No eyes, no mouths, no features at all. Just empty surfaces where faces should be. And they were all turned toward me, tracking my movement with those non-existent eyes. I hit the gas harder than I should have, my trailer swaying dangerously, but I didn't care. I needed to get away from them, away from this place, back to the real Highway 29 where the mile markers made sense. The CB crackled again. This time it wasn't Morrison's voice. It was something else, something that sounded like multiple voices speaking at once. "Stay with us, Harlan. Stay on the old road. You'll never be lonely here. You'll never be lost." "Shut up," I said to the empty cab. "Shut up, shut up." "We're all still driving, Harlan. Miles and miles and miles. The road goes on forever. Isn't that what you always wanted? To drive forever?" I fumbled with the CB, trying to turn it off, but the voice kept coming through. "Morrison's been here for 3 weeks. Some of us have been here for years, decades. We've forgotten what the real world looks like. All we know is the road and the snow and the numbers. 213. 213, 213. The figures had started moving now, walking onto the highway behind me. Not fast, but steady, their movements synchronized. A slow march in my wake. I was going 50 miles per hour in near zero visibility, which is suicide in a truck. But the alternative was worse. I couldn't let them catch me. Couldn't let myself become one of them, another faceless driver wandering the old highway for eternity. The mile markers started appearing again, but they were wrong. 213, 213, 213. Over and over, no matter how far I drove. Then, just when I thought I'd never escape, the storm began to clear. Not all at once, but gradually. The snow thinned, visibility improved. And when I looked at the next mile marker, it showed 196. I was back on the real highway. I drove until I reached the next truck stop, about 20 miles south. Pulled into the parking lot and sat there with the engine running, my hands shaking so badly I couldn't hold my coffee cup. I'd made it out, but Morrison was still there, trapped in that endless loop of mile marker 213, driving forever on a road that didn't exist. And those figures, all those drivers who'd been lost over the years, now wandering the old highway without faces, without identity, without hope. I called Dex and told him everything. He listened in silence, and when I finished, he only said one thing. "We need to warn people. Every driver who runs this route needs to know what's out there. They won't believe us. Some will, the ones who've seen strange things, the ones who felt that pull. We tell them to avoid Highway 29 during storms. We tell them about Morrison. We save whoever we can. But how many would listen? How many drivers would dismiss it as superstition, ghost stories told by stressed-out truckers who needed sleep? How many would drive into the next storm, confident in their experience and skill, only to see that green sign appear in their headlights? Mile marker 213, the threshold between the real world and the old road. The point of no return. I didn't drive Highway 29 for 2 months after that night. Called in sick, took vacation days I'd been saving, even turned down loads that would have paid double. My dispatcher thought I was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe I was. But I couldn't stop thinking about Morrison, trapped on that endless highway driving past the same mile marker over and over, surrounded by the faceless figures of other lost drivers. Was he still trying to find a way out? Or had he given up, resigned himself to an eternity of meaningless miles? In February, I couldn't avoid it any longer. My company needed someone to run a high-priority load from Milwaukee to Fargo, and I was the only driver available who knew the route. The weather forecast was clear, no storms predicted for the next week. I took the job. I left Milwaukee at 6 in the morning on a Monday, the sky bright and cold. I'd modified my truck since December, installed extra CB radios, a backup GPS, even a satellite phone that couldn't lose signal. If something happened, I wanted every possible way to call for help. The drive was uneventful. I reached Eau Claire by noon, stopped for lunch at a diner I knew. The waitress was friendly, the coffee was hot, everything was normal. I started to relax. Maybe the worst was over. Maybe the old highway only appeared during those specific storms. I got back on Highway 29 around 1 in the afternoon. Clear skies, light traffic, temperature at 15 degrees. Perfect conditions. Mile marker 195 appeared on schedule. Then 196, 197. The numbers climbed steadily, my GPS matching perfectly with every sign. As I approached the area where 213 should be, I held my breath. 212 appeared in the distance. I slowed down, watching carefully. The road ahead was empty. Just clean asphalt. Snowbanks on either side, clear sky above. And then I saw it. Not the mile marker. Something else. There was a truck parked on the shoulder, hazard lights flashing. It was an older model Kenworth, the kind they stopped making in the 90s. The paint was faded, covered in road grime, but I could make out the company logo on the door. Midwest Freight. I knew that company. They'd gone out of business 20 years ago. I should have kept driving. Every instinct screamed at me to keep going. Don't stop. Don't look. But there was something about that truck. Something familiar. I pulled over about 50 feet behind it and put on my own hazards. Sat there for a minute watching. No movement from the cab, no sign of the driver. The truck looked like it had been there for a while. Snow drifted against the tires. I grabbed my CB. This is Harlan Greevy on Highway 29 northbound. Anyone near mile marker 212, I've got a disabled vehicle on the shoulder. Requesting assistance to check on the driver. Static, then a voice I didn't expect. Harlan, get away from that truck. It was Dex. Dex? What are you doing on this channel? I've been monitoring CB traffic on 29 since Morrison disappeared. Harlan, that truck is bait. Get back on the highway right now. I looked at the Kenworth again. As I watched, the driver's door opened slowly. Someone stepped out. It was Morrison. I recognized him from the photo his company had distributed when he went missing. Tall, heavy build, gray beard. He was wearing the same clothes he'd had on the day he disappeared, a red and black flannel jacket and jeans. He walked toward my truck, moving slowly, like each step took enormous effort. When he got close enough for me to see his face clearly, I understood why Dex had told me to leave. Morrison's face was starting to fade. Not gone yet, not completely blank like the figures I'd seen in the storm, but blurring, features becoming indistinct, like a photograph left in the sun too long. He knocked on my window. I rolled it down a crack. "Help me," he said. His voice was hollow, distant. "I need to get back. I need to go home." "Morrison, what happened to you?" "I'm on both roads now, the real one and the old one. I can see them both, exist in both places, but I'm fading from the real world. Soon, I'll only exist on the old highway, and then I'll be like them. No face, no identity. Just another driver going nowhere forever. How do I help you? You can't, it's too late for me. But you can warn others. Tell them about the old road. Tell them what happens if they cross the threshold." He leaned closer to my window, and I could see his eyes starting to blur, losing definition. "And tell my wife I love her. Tell her I'm sorry I won't be coming home." "Morrison," but he was already walking back to his truck. As I watched, he climbed into the cab and started the engine. The Kenworth pulled onto the highway heading north. It drove about 100 yards before it just vanished, fading out of existence like it had never been there. I sat, frozen, my hands gripping the wheel. Dex's voice came through the CB again. "Harlan, are you still there?" "I saw him, Morrison. He's losing his face." "I know. That's what happens to them. The longer they stay on the old road, the less real they become. Eventually, they're just shadows, echoes of drivers. No identity left. There has to be a way to save them. If there is, I haven't found it. I've been researching this for months, Harlan. That accident in 1969, it wasn't the beginning. I found records of strange disappearances on this highway going back to the 40s. Drivers who vanished, trucks found abandoned, no explanation. The old road has been taking people for 80 years. Why? What does it want? I don't think it wants anything. I think it just exists, a pocket of reality that got separated from the main timeline when they built the new highway. All those drivers who died on the old road, they're stuck there. And now it's collecting more, pulling in anyone who crosses the threshold during the right conditions. I looked ahead at the empty highway. Mile marker 214 was visible in the distance. I'd passed the danger zone, for now. What do I do, Dex? You keep driving. You finish your route, and you tell everyone you can about what you saw. Maybe we can't save Morrison or the others, but we can keep more drivers from joining them. I drove the rest of the way to Fargo in silence, my mind churning. Morrison's face blurring and fading. All those figures in the snow, their features erased by years of wandering the old highway. And somewhere out there, mile marker 213 was waiting for the next storm, the next driver who didn't know to turn back. I delivered my load the next day and started the drive back to Milwaukee. This time I took Highway 10 instead of 29, adding 3 hours to my trip. I didn't care. I wasn't ready to face that stretch of road again. Not yet. But I knew I'd have to eventually. It was my route, my livelihood. I couldn't avoid it forever. When I got home, I did what Morrison had asked. I looked up his wife's phone number and called her. Told her I'd seen him, that he'd wanted her to know he loved her and was sorry. She cried on the phone for a long time. Then she asked me where he was, if he was okay. I couldn't tell her the truth. Couldn't explain that her husband was trapped on a highway that didn't exist, slowly losing his identity, fading into nothing. So I lied. Said I didn't know where he was, that I'd only seen him briefly. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment and thought about all the families of the missing drivers, all the people waiting for someone who would never come home, and I wondered how many of them had received similar calls over the years, from drivers who'd seen their loved ones on the old road, watched them fade away. The next week, there was another storm on Highway 29. I wasn't driving, but I monitored the CB traffic, listening for any sign of trouble. At 11:30 that night, I heard a voice I didn't recognize. "This is Fletcher northbound on 29. I'm passing mile marker 213 and the weather's getting bad." My blood went cold. I grabbed my mic. "Fletcher, this is Harlan Greevy. You need to turn around right now. Don't go any further." "Who is this? Mile marker 213 doesn't exist on this highway." "Fletcher, listen to me very carefully. Turn your truck around and head south immediately. If you pass that marker, you won't be able to come back." There was a pause. Then, "Are you drunk, buddy? I'm looking at the sign right now. It says 213 clear as day." "Fletcher, please," but he was already gone, his signal fading into static. I tried calling back, tried raising him on other channels. Nothing. The next morning, I called the state patrol, asked if they'd received any reports of missing trucks on Highway 29. They said a driver named Fletcher had been reported missing. Truck found abandoned near mile marker 204. No sign of the driver. Another one lost to the old road. I started keeping a list after that. Every driver who went missing on Highway 29. Every report of strange weather or impossible mile markers. The list grew longer each month. Morrison. Fletcher. A driver named Chen in March. Someone called Rodriguez in April. The old highway was hungry, collecting drivers with increasing frequency. And I kept driving Highway 29 because it was my route, my job. But I drove it differently now. Never at night during winter. Never when storms were predicted. And I watched the mile markers obsessively, always counting, always checking, making sure they climbed in order. Because I knew that one day the storm would come when I was out there. One day the conditions would be right, and I'd see that green sign appear in my headlights. Mile marker 213. And I'd have to make the choice Morrison had made, the choice Fletcher had made. Turn back and save myself, or cross the threshold and see what lay beyond. I tell myself I'd turn back. I'd do what Morrison told me to do, what I'd told Fletcher to do. I'd save myself. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I'd have the strength. The old road calls to drivers, promises endless miles, eternal movement. For someone who's spent their whole life on the highway, there's something seductive about that. Never stopping, never resting, just driving forever. Dex and I still talk regularly. He's assembled a network of drivers who know about the old highway, people who've seen it or heard about it from someone who has. We share information, warn each other about storms, keep track of who's missing and where. But we can't stop it. The old highway exists whether we acknowledge it or not, and it's patient. It's been collecting drivers for 80 years. It can wait for however long it takes to add us to its collection. I saw Morrison one more time, in early May. I was driving through on a clear day, no weather, no danger. But as I passed the area where 213 should be, I caught a glimpse of something in my peripheral vision. A truck on the shoulder, exactly where Morrison had stopped that day in February. I looked in my mirror and saw him standing beside it, watching me drive past. His face was almost completely gone now, just a smooth, blank surface with the barest suggestion of features. In another few months, he'd be indistinguishable from all the others, another faceless figure wandering the old road. He didn't wave, didn't move, just stood there, a silent warning of what awaited anyone who crossed the threshold. I kept driving. That's all you can do on Highway 29. Keep driving, keep watching the mile markers, keep hoping that the next storm won't be the one that pulls you onto the old road. And if you ever find yourself driving through northern Wisconsin during a blizzard, if you see a mile marker that doesn't belong, if your GPS stops matching the signs around you, remember this. Turn back before you pass 213. Before the figures in the snow start walking toward you, Before you become another driver who never came home, another name on the list of the lost, another face slowly fading into nothing on a highway that shouldn't exist. Turn back while you still can, because once you cross that threshold, the only road ahead is the one that goes on forever, mile marker 213, repeating into eternity, and you'll drive it alone in the endless snow, watching your face disappear in the rearview mirror until there's nothing left of who you were. Just another shadow on the old highway, just another driver who never found their way home. The road is still out there, still waiting. And one day, the storm will come for me too. When it does, I hope I have the strength Morrison showed. The strength to warn someone else, even as I fade away. But I'm not sure I will. Because the truth is, after 23 years on the road, I'm not sure I know how to be anything else. And the old highway knows that. It's always known. It's just been waiting for me to realize it too. My name is Reeve Calder, and I've been driving the northern routes for 11 years. Minneapolis to Duluth, Duluth to Fargo, sometimes all the way out to Bismarck when the loads are good. I know the interstates, the truck stops, the weather patterns. I know when to push through and when to park it and wait. That knowledge has kept me safe through 100 storms. But nothing prepared me for what happened on County Road 47 that February night. The day started normal enough. I picked up a load of medical supplies in Minneapolis around noon. Destination was a hospital in Grand Forks. Straightforward run, maybe 5 hours in good conditions. The weather forecast showed snow moving in around evening, but nothing severe. Just another winter drive. I made good time heading north on Interstate 94. The sky was gray and heavy, that particular shade that means snow is coming, but the roads were clear. I passed Fargo around 5:30, grabbed a coffee at a truck stop, listened to some drivers complaining about the cold, standard February in North Dakota. By 6 o'clock, the snow started. Light at first, those small dry flakes that blow across the highway without sticking much. I kept my speed up, watching the temperature gauge. 22 degrees. Cold enough to freeze, but the road treatment was holding. At 6:45, my CB crackled with a highway patrol announcement. Attention all commercial vehicles on Interstate 29 northbound. Highway is now closed from Fargo to the Canadian border due to multiple accidents and whiteout conditions. I repeat, Interstate 29 is closed. All trucks must exit and seek alternate routes or shelter. I was on I-94, not 29, so I wasn't worried yet. But then another announcement came through. Interstate 94 westbound is now closed from Fargo to Bismarck. Eastbound remains open, but conditions are deteriorating rapidly. I grabbed my atlas and spread it across the passenger seat, checking alternate routes. Grand Forks was northeast of my current position. If I-29 was closed, I'd need to find county roads that ran parallel. It would add time, maybe an hour or two, but I could make it. The snow was getting heavier now. I could feel the wind starting to push against the truck, that sideways force that makes you fight the steering wheel. Visibility was dropping fast. I took the next exit, a small one that led to a town called Argusville. Population maybe 300. The kind of place that's mostly grain elevators and farm equipment dealers. I pulled into a gas station to fuel up and check my route. The woman behind the counter was probably in her 60s, gray hair pulled back, wearing a thick cardigan against the cold that seeped through the door every time someone opened it. Her name tag said Imogene. "Heading north?" she asked as I paid for the fuel. "Trying to. Grand Forks. Interstates are closed." She frowned, looking out the window at the falling snow. "You planning to take county roads?" "Don't have much choice. Hospital's waiting on this delivery. Most of the county roads are drifted over. Plows can't keep up with this storm." She pulled out a local map, the kind they give away for free at gas stations. Your best bet is probably County Road 47, runs pretty straight north, should get you to Grand Forks eventually. Should? It's an old road. Used to be the main route before they built the interstate. Not many people use it anymore. She traced the line with her finger. Runs through some empty country. No towns, no services, just farmland. Is it paved? Mostly. Some rough patches. And there's no lights, no markers. You'll be on your own out there. I looked at the map. County Road 47 ran almost perfectly north from just outside Argusville, cutting through what looked like completely empty territory for about 60 miles before connecting with a state highway near Grand Forks. It would work if the road was passable. How long since anyone's driven it? I asked. Imogene shrugged. Hard to say. We don't get much traffic through here anymore. Most people stick to the interstate. She looked at me carefully. You sure you want to try it in this weather? I've driven through worse. That was a lie. I'd driven through bad weather plenty of times, but something about the way she asked made me uneasy. Like she was testing whether I'd be smart enough to say no. But I had a deadline, a delivery that hospitals were counting on. Medical supplies don't wait for good weather. Thanks for the advice, I said, taking the map. Be careful out there, Imogene said. That road can be strange in a storm. I should have asked what she meant by that. Should have pressed her for details. But I was already thinking about the drive, calculating time and distance, worrying about the snow. I got back in my truck and pulled out of the gas station. The town of Argusville disappeared behind me within minutes, swallowed by the falling snow in the darkness. I found the turnoff for County Road 47 and took it, my headlights cutting into the white. The road was narrower than I expected. 2 lanes, barely wide enough for a truck to meet oncoming traffic. The pavement was old and cracked, snow filling the gaps. No center line visible, no edge markers. Just a strip of dark asphalt disappearing into the storm ahead of me. For the first 20 minutes it was manageable. The snow was heavy but steady, the wind pushing from the west but not unbearable. I kept my speed at 40, watching for drifts that might hide the road's edge. The landscape was completely flat. Fields on both sides, probably corn or wheat in summer, now just white emptiness stretching to invisible horizons. No buildings, no lights, no signs of human presence. Just me and the truck and the snow. At 7:30, I saw the first red taillight. It was far ahead, maybe a quarter mile. Just a single red glow in the white, like another vehicle driving north on the same road. I felt a small surge of relief. At least I wasn't completely alone out here. I maintained my speed, expecting to gradually catch up. The other vehicle was probably going slower than me, and eventually I'd pass them or they'd pull over to let me by. That's how it usually works. But after 10 minutes, the red light was still exactly the same distance ahead. I checked my speedometer. 40 miles per hour, steady. The light wasn't getting closer or farther away. It was maintaining perfect distance. I sped up to 45. The light stayed the same distance ahead, 50 miles per hour, faster than I should go in these conditions. The red light remained constant, like it was tethered to me by an invisible rope. I slowed back down to 40, uneasy now. The light matched my speed perfectly, always staying just out of reach. I tried the CB. This is Reeve Calder, northbound on County Road 47. Anyone copy? Static. No response. Vehicle ahead of me with the red taillights. This is the truck behind you. Do you copy? Nothing. I kept driving, my eyes fixed on that single red light. It never wavered, never blinked, never changed intensity. Just glowed steadily in the falling snow, leading me north into the empty dark. After another 15 minutes, I started to question whether it was actually a vehicle at all. The light was too constant, too perfect. Real taillights flicker slightly as a vehicle moves over uneven pavement. They get brighter when the driver brakes, dimmer when they accelerate. This light did neither. It just existed, unwavering, always exactly the same distance ahead. I thought about turning around. The whole situation felt wrong. An empty road that nobody used, a gas station clerk warning me it could be strange, and now this impossible light that stayed ahead of me no matter what I did. But behind me was nothing but drifted roads and closed interstates. Ahead was Grand Forks and my delivery. I'd come this far. Might as well keep going. At 8 o'clock, I passed what looked like an abandoned farmhouse on the right side of the road. It appeared suddenly in my headlights, a dark shape with broken windows and a collapsed porch. Snow had drifted halfway up the walls. The place looked like it hadn't been occupied in decades. I glanced at it as I drove past, then looked back at the road ahead. The red light was still there, steady as ever. 5 minutes later, I passed the same farmhouse again. I'm sure it was the same one. Same broken windows, same collapsed porch, same snowdrifts. But I'd been driving north in a straight line. How could I pass the same building twice? I checked my GPS. According to the system, I was making steady progress north on County Road 47. No loops, no circles, just a straight line toward Grand Forks. But I'd definitely passed that farmhouse twice. 10 minutes after that, I passed it a third time. My hands were getting sweaty despite the cold. Something was very wrong with this road. I was either driving in circles without knowing it, or the road itself was somehow looping, or I was losing my mind. I grabbed the CB again. This is Reeve Calder on County Road 47. Is anyone monitoring this channel? I need assistance. Static, then a voice so faint I almost missed it. Turn around. Who is this? What's happening on this road? Can't stop. Keep going. Don't stop. The voice faded into static. I couldn't tell if it was male or female, old or young, just a whisper buried in white noise. The red light ahead of me was still there, constant and unwavering. I'd been following it for over an hour now, and I hadn't gained an inch. The farmhouse appeared again on my right, 4th time. I was definitely caught in some kind of loop, even though my GPS insisted I was making progress. I made a decision. At the next clear spot, I was going to try to pass that red light, get ahead of it, see what it actually was. Maybe it wasn't a vehicle at all. Maybe it was something else. Some reflection or atmospheric phenomenon that just looked like a taillight. I pushed my speed up to 55, watching the light carefully. For the first time, it seemed to respond. It was getting closer, the red glow growing larger in my windshield. 60 miles per hour now, way too fast for these conditions, but I needed to know what I was chasing. The light was maybe 100 yards ahead, close enough that I should be able to make out the shape of whatever was producing it. But there was nothing there, just the light itself, hanging in the air, no vehicle attached to it. I was almost on top of it now, close enough that it filled my vision, a brilliant red glow that hurt to look at. I braced myself to drive through it, to see what would happen when I reached it. The light winked out, just disappeared, like someone had flipped a switch. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone, and I was alone on an empty road with nothing ahead but snow and darkness. I slammed on the brakes, the truck sliding on the icy pavement. I fought the wheel, keeping it from jackknifing, bringing the whole rig to a stop in the middle of the road. I sat there, engine idling, staring at the empty highway ahead. No light, no vehicle, nothing. Then I checked my rearview mirror. The red light was behind me now. Same distance, same intensity, same unwavering glow. Like it had never been ahead of me at all. Like I'd imagined the whole thing, but I knew I hadn't imagined it. I'd been chasing that light for over an hour. I'd watched it in my windshield, seen it grow larger as I approached. It had been real, and now it was behind me, following instead of leading. I put the truck back in gear and started driving again, faster now, trying to outrun the light in my mirror. But it matched my speed perfectly, staying exactly the same distance behind me. The snow was getting heavier, the wind stronger. Visibility was down to maybe 50 feet. I couldn't see the edges of the road anymore, just followed where my headlights pointed and hoped I was staying on pavement. The abandoned farmhouse appeared again, this time on my left instead of my right. 5th time seeing it. Or was it the 6th? I was losing count. My radio crackled. "Reeve Calder, do you copy?" The voice was clearer this time. I grabbed the mic. "This is Reeve. Who am I talking to?" "This is State Trooper Callum Harbridge. We've been trying to reach you. Where are you?" Relief flooded through me. County Road 47, heading north toward Grand Forks. I've been having some kind of navigation problem. I think I'm driving in circles. County Road 47? He sounded confused. That road's been closed for years. Washed out in the 2009 floods, never repaired. I'm on it right now. I turned off in Argusville, been driving for 2 hours. "Reeve, there's no way you're on County Road 47. That road doesn't exist anymore." "Then what road am I on?" Silence, then. "We're getting a signal from your GPS. According to our tracking, you're on Interstate 29 northbound, about 30 miles south of Grand Forks." "That's impossible. I-29 is closed, and I'm definitely not on an interstate. This is a narrow county road." "Reeve, your GPS tracker shows you on I-29, but we're also getting another signal, a second tracking signature with your license plate showing you on County Road 47. Both signals are active simultaneously." My blood went cold. What does that mean? "I don't know. We've never seen anything like this. It's like your truck is in 2 places at once." I looked in the rearview mirror. The red light was still behind me, constant and unwavering. And ahead, through the falling snow, I saw something new. Another truck, approaching from the opposite direction. Its headlights cut through the white, getting closer. As it passed me, I got a clear look at it. A Freightliner, newer model, same color as mine. Same company logo on the door, the same license plate. It was my truck. I'd just passed myself going the opposite direction. "Trooper Harbridge," I said into the CB, my voice shaking. "I think I just saw my truck, driving south while I'm driving north. Reeve, you need to get off that road. Right now. Take any exit you see, any turnoff. Get off County Road 47 immediately. There are no exits. There's nothing out here but empty fields. Then turn around. Drive back the way you came." I looked in my mirror. The red light was still behind me, closer now. And beyond it, I could see another set of headlights. Another truck, following the red light, following me. "I can't turn around," I said. "There's something behind me." The trooper's voice was urgent now. "Reeve, listen to me very carefully. County Road 47 doesn't exist in normal space anymore. It got cut off during the floods, separated from the main road network, but it's still there in some way. Drivers who turn onto it during storms sometimes get trapped in a loop. They drive forever, never reaching their destination, never able to leave. How do I get out? I don't know. The other drivers who reported this phenomenon, they just disappeared. We never found them." The red light in my mirror was getting brighter, closer, and I could see the headlights behind it more clearly now. It was another truck, identical to mine. I was being followed by myself, or something that looked like me. "How many other drivers?" I asked. "How many disappeared on this road?" "7 that we know of. Over the past 12 years, all during blizzards, all on County Road 47. 7 trucks, 7 drivers, all trapped on a road that didn't exist, following a red light that led nowhere, passing themselves going the opposite direction." The abandoned farmhouse appeared again on my right. I'd lost count of how many times I'd passed it now. "I'm going to try something," I told the trooper. "Reeve, don't do anything." I yanked the steering wheel hard to the right, driving off the road, through the ditch, into the open field. The truck bounced and lurched, my trailer swaying dangerously. I kept the accelerator down, plowing through the snow, putting distance between myself and County Road 47. After about 200 yards, the truck broke through into clear air. The snow stopped falling. The wind died, and I was suddenly on a different road entirely. A wide, well-maintained highway with clear lane markings and reflective signs. Interstate 29. I pulled over on the shoulder and sat there, shaking. Behind me, I could see the wall of snow where I'd come from, a solid white curtain that seemed to mark a boundary between one reality and another. The CB crackled. "Reeve, are you there?" "I'm here. I'm on I-29 now, the real one." "How did you get out?" "I drove off the road, just left County Road 47 entirely." That's never worked before. Every other driver who tried that said they just ended up back on the road, like it pulled them back. I looked at my GPS. It showed my location on I-29, about 30 miles south of Grand Forks, only one signal now. No duplicate. "Maybe I got lucky," I said. But I didn't feel lucky. I felt like I'd escaped something that had been hunting me, something that had wanted me to join those other 7 drivers on an endless loop through a storm that never ended. "Reeve, we need you to come to the Grand Forks Highway Patrol Station. We need to document what happened." "I will. But first, I need to make my delivery. The hospital is waiting." I drove the rest of the way to Grand Forks without incident. The interstate was clear, recently plowed, traffic moving normally. It was like the nightmare of County Road 47 had never happened. But when I reached Grand Forks and made my delivery, something strange happened. The receiving clerk looked at my paperwork, then looked at me with confusion. "Mr. Calder, we already received this delivery." "What?" "About an hour ago, another driver with your company brought the same supplies, same order number, same paperwork." "That's impossible. I have the supplies right here in my truck." We went out to my trailer and opened it. The cargo area was empty, completely empty, like it had never been loaded at all. But I'd seen the supplies in Minneapolis. I'd watched them load the boxes, had checked the manifest myself. They'd been there. The clerk showed me the signature from the earlier delivery. It was mine. My handwriting, my name, signed an hour ago when I'd still been trapped on County Road 47. I drove to the state patrol station like I'd promised. Trooper Callum Harbridge met me at the door. A tall man in his 40s with tired eyes that suggested he'd seen things he didn't like to talk about. "Reeve Calder, glad you made it out. Did you find any record of another delivery to the hospital under my name?" He nodded slowly. "We did. Signed for at 7:45 this evening. But that's impossible because you were still on County Road 47 at that time. So what happened? Did I make the delivery while I was trapped, or was it someone else?" "I think," Harbridge said carefully, "that there are multiple versions of tonight happening simultaneously. You got trapped in one version, on County Road 47. But another version of you stayed on the interstate, made the delivery normally. When you broke free from the loop, you crossed back into the timeline where the delivery had already happened. That sounds insane. It is insane, but it's the only explanation that fits what happened." He took me into his office and showed me files on the other 7 drivers who'd disappeared on County Road 47. All of them had similar stories. They'd turned onto the road during a blizzard, followed a red light, got trapped in a loop. None of them had been seen again, but in 3 of the cases, their trucks had been found later, parked at their destinations, cargo delivered. The drivers had simply vanished, but their deliveries were completed. It's like the road splits them, Harbridge said. One version gets trapped, drives forever. Another version completes the journey normally, but only one version is real, and it's not always the one that survives. Why did I survive when the others didn't? I don't know. Maybe because you drove off the road instead of trying to turn around. Maybe because you broke the pattern somehow. Or maybe... He trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe you didn't survive. Maybe the version of you sitting here right now is the one who got trapped, and the version that made the delivery is the real you. I thought about that as I drove back to Minneapolis the next day. The interstate was open again. The storm had passed. Everything was normal. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that I wasn't quite real anymore. When I got home, I checked my delivery records. They showed a successful completion of the Grand Forks run, signed and dated, but I remembered every moment of being trapped on County Road 47. Both things couldn't be true, unless they both were. I didn't drive for a week after that night. Called in sick, stayed in my apartment, tried to convince myself it had all been some kind of stress-induced hallucination. The human mind does strange things under pressure. Maybe I'd gotten confused about which road I was on. Maybe the snow had disoriented me. But that didn't explain the delivery signature. Didn't explain the trooper's tracking data showing my truck in 2 places at once. Didn't explain why my trailer had been full when I left Minneapolis and empty when I arrived in Grand Forks. On the 8th day, I got a call from my dispatcher. "Reeve, we need you back on the road. Got a high-priority load heading to Fargo. I'm not ready. Reeve, you've been driving for 11 years without incident. Whatever happened last week, you handled it. You survived. That's what professional drivers do." I wanted to tell him about the red light, about the loop, about passing myself on an impossible road. But what would I say that wouldn't sound insane? Give me a few more days. Can't do that. This load needs to move tonight. You're the only driver I trust with it. So I took the job, because that's what you do. You get back in the truck and drive even when you're scared, even when you know there are things out there that don't make sense. I picked up the load in Minneapolis, checked everything twice. The cargo was there, I watched them seal the trailer, got the manifest. This time, I'd have proof all the way through. The route was familiar. I-94 west to Fargo, straight shot, maybe 4 hours. The weather forecast was clear, no storms predicted. I'd be fine. I left at 6 in the evening, right as the sun was setting. The temperature was dropping fast, 20 degrees and falling, but the roads were dry. I settled into the familiar rhythm of the drive, watching the mile markers count up, listening to the CB chatter from other drivers. Everything was normal until I reached Argusville. I wasn't planning to stop there, had no reason to. But as I passed the exit, I felt a pull, almost physical, like something was drawing me toward that off-ramp. I fought it, kept my hand steady on the wheel, kept driving west. The pull got stronger. My steering wheel actually turned slightly to the right, like invisible hands were guiding it. I had to actively fight to keep the truck going straight. Then I saw the sign. County Road 47. Next right. But I was on I-94, miles south of where that turnoff should be. County Road 47 was north of Argusville, not west. The sign shouldn't exist here. I drove past it, my heart pounding. In my mirror, I watched the sign disappear behind me. 2 miles later, I saw it again. County Road 47. Next right. Different location, same sign. Like the road was following me, offering me chances to turn onto it. I grabbed the CB. This is Reeve Calder westbound on I-94. Anyone else seeing signs for County Road 47? No response. Not even static. The CB was completely dead. The sign appeared a third time, closer to the highway now. I could see the actual turnoff, a narrow road leading north into darkness. And on that road, barely visible in the fading light, was a single red taillight. Waiting for me. I pushed the accelerator down, speeding up to 70, trying to outrun whatever this was. But the signs kept appearing, every few miles, always offering me the same turn. At 7:30, my GPS started glitching. The screen flickered, showing me on I-94, then on County Road 47, then back to I-94. Like I was oscillating between two different realities, unable to settle in either one. My phone rang. I grabbed it, hoping it was my dispatcher or someone who could help. Reeve Calder? The voice was female, familiar. Who is this? Imogene Lefferts, from the gas station in Argusville. I need to warn you about something. How did you get my number? That's not important. What's important is that you stay off County Road 47. No matter what you see, no matter what calls to you, don't turn onto that road. I'm not planning to. I'm on I-94. That doesn't matter. The road finds drivers it wants. It's been looking for you since you escaped last week. It doesn't like losing people. My hands tightened on the wheel. What is that road? What's really going on? It's hard to explain. County Road 47 exists in the space between different versions of North Dakota. When they closed it in 2009, when they declared it officially abandoned, it didn't disappear. It just became unstuck from normal geography. Now it moves, appears during storms, calls to drivers who get too close to its old route. That's impossible. You've seen it, you've driven it, you know it's not impossible. Another sign appeared. County Road 47. Next right. The turnoff was getting closer to I-94, like the road was reaching toward me, trying to intersect with my path. Why does it want me? Because you got away. 7 other drivers didn't. They're still out there, still driving that loop, following that red light forever. The road feeds on them somehow, sustains itself on their endlessness. When you escaped, you created an imbalance. Now it wants you back to restore equilibrium. How do I stop it? You don't stop it, you just avoid it. Stay on the interstate, don't take any exits you don't recognize, and whatever you do, don't follow any red lights. The call cut off. I tried calling back but got no signal. Ahead, I saw brake lights. Traffic was slowing down, backing up. As I got closer, I saw why. There was construction. The highway narrowing from 2 lanes to 1. Orange barrels and signs directing traffic to merge right. And the detour signs were routing everyone onto County Road 47. No, I whispered. No, no, no. I tried to find a way to avoid the detour, but the construction barrels blocked all other options. Every vehicle ahead of me was taking the exit, following the signs onto that dark, narrow road heading north. I grabbed the CB again. This is Reeve Calder. Is anyone seeing this detour? Anyone else being routed onto County Road 47? A voice came back, crackling with static. What detour? I-94 is clear all the way to Fargo. I looked at the construction ahead. The barrels were real, the detour was real, but other drivers weren't seeing it. It was meant only for me. I made a decision. Instead of following the detour, I drove straight at the construction barrels. My truck smashed through them, plastic and metal scraping against the hood. Alarms started blaring, lights flashing. But I kept going, plowing through the work zone. In my mirror, I saw the construction disappear. The barrels vanished. The detour signs blinked out of existence. The highway behind me was clear and empty, like there had never been any construction at all. My GPS flickered one final time, then stabilized. I was on I-94, exactly where I should be. The signs for County Road 47 stopped appearing, but I knew it wasn't over. I made it to Fargo without further incident, delivered my load, checked into a motel. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that red light, steady and unwavering, waiting for me in the dark. Around 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and went to the motel lobby to get coffee. There was one other person there, a truck driver maybe 10 years older than me, staring out the window at the parking lot. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Not really. Bad dreams?" Something like that. He turned to look at me, and I saw something in his eyes. Recognition. Fear. "You've driven County Road 47, he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. "When?" "Last week, and it tried to pull me back tonight." He sat down heavily in one of the lobby chairs. "I drove it 15 years ago. Been running from it ever since. It still calls to me sometimes, shows me signs, offers me turns. But I've learned to recognize them, to avoid them. Does it ever stop? I don't know. I've never met anyone who escaped it long enough to find out." He looked at me carefully. "You know about the red light?" "I followed it for 2 hours. Never got any closer." That light is the road itself, in a way. It's a beacon, a lure. It leads you deeper into the loop, makes you think you're following another vehicle, when really you're just chasing your own future. The moment when you'll be trapped forever. What happened to the other drivers? The ones who didn't escape? They're still out there, still driving. I've seen them sometimes, when I get too close to places where the road used to run. Trucks from different eras, different decades, all moving along an invisible highway, all following that same red light. Some of those trucks are from the 1980s, maybe earlier. Their drivers have been trapped for 40 years. The thought made me sick. 40 years of driving in circles, following a light that never got closer, passing yourself over and over, never able to stop or turn around or escape. "Why doesn't someone do something?" I asked. "Why doesn't the state close off access, warn people?" They've tried. They put up barriers, closed the old turnoffs, erased it from maps. But the road doesn't care about barriers. It moves, appears in new places, finds new ways to intersect with the real world. You can't close a road that doesn't follow normal rules of geography. There has to be a way to destroy it, to free the trapped drivers. If there is, nobody's found it yet. The best we can do is avoid it and warn others. That's why I'm still driving after 15 years. Still watching for the signs, still running. Because the moment I stop paying attention, the moment I let my guard down, that's when it'll get me. We talked for another hour, sharing stories, comparing experiences. He'd seen things I hadn't, had developed strategies for avoiding the road's pull. He gave me his number, told me to call if I ever needed advice. As the sun came up, I went back to my room and finally managed to sleep for a few hours. When I woke up, I checked my phone and found a message from Trooper Harbridge. "Reeve, we need to talk. Something's happened." I called him back. "What's going on?" We found Morrison. Morrison was one of the 7 drivers who'd disappeared on County Road 47. He'd been missing for 6 years. Where? That's the strange part. He walked into a gas station in Argusville this morning. Just appeared, said he'd been driving all night and needed to refuel. The clerk called us because Morrison was still wearing his company uniform from 6 years ago, and his truck was a model that hasn't been manufactured in a decade. Is he okay? Physically, yes. Mentally, he thinks it's still 2018. He doesn't remember the past 6 years. Says he just drove through a storm on County Road 47 and ended up at the gas station. Did you tell him? We tried. He doesn't believe us. Thinks we're playing some kind of joke on him. Can I talk to him? That's why I'm calling. I think he might listen to you. Another driver who's experienced the same thing. I drove to the state patrol station in Grand Forks. Morrison was in an interview room, looking confused and frightened. He was maybe 50, gray beard, weathered face. His company uniform was faded and worn, but looked exactly like it would have in 2018. I sat down across from him. My name is Reeve Calder. I drove County Road 47 2 weeks ago. He looked at me with sudden intensity. You've been on that road? Yeah. I followed the red light for 2 hours. Passed the same farmhouse over and over. Finally drove off into a field and ended up on I-29. The red light, Morrison said. I followed it too. Couldn't catch up to it, couldn't lose it. It just stayed ahead of me, constant. I must have driven 100 miles, maybe more. Then suddenly the storm cleared and I was in Argusville pulling into a gas station like nothing had happened. Morrison, that was 6 years ago. No, that was last night. I remember it clearly. February 16th, 2018. It's February 24th, 2024. He stared at me, then laughed. That's ridiculous. I talked to my wife yesterday. She's fine. We're fine. This is some kind of mistake. Trooper Harbridge had brought in Morrison's phone. It had been recovered from his abandoned truck in 2018. They powered it on and showed him the messages, the missed calls, 6 years of his wife trying to reach him. Morrison's face went white as he scrolled through them. The last message was from 3 months ago. I'm moving on. I can't wait anymore. I'm sorry. What happened to me? Morrison whispered. You got trapped in a time loop, I said. County Road 47 doesn't just loop in space, it loops in time. You've been driving the same night over and over for 6 years, but from your perspective, it was just a few hours. But I'm here now. I escaped. Or the road let you go, released you back into normal time. Why would it do that? That was the question I couldn't answer. Why would County Road 47 trap drivers for years, then suddenly release them? What had changed? Harbridge had a theory. We think the road has a capacity. It can only hold so many drivers at once. When Reeve escaped, he created a vacancy. The road needed to maintain its equilibrium, so it released someone else. You're saying I got free because someone else got trapped? Possibly. I thought about the detour I'd seen the night before, the construction that had tried to route me onto County Road 47. The road had been trying to recapture me, and when it failed, it had to release Morrison to balance out. But that raised another question. If 7 drivers had originally been trapped and Morrison had been released, that meant only 6 were still out there, unless the road had captured someone new. Have there been any reports of missing drivers in the past week? I asked Harbridge. He checked his computer. 1. Driver named Fletcher, disappeared 5 days ago. Truck found abandoned on I-94 near Argusville. Same profile as the other vanishings. So the road had claimed a replacement. Morrison out, Fletcher in, the number stayed constant at 7. I looked at Morrison still scrolling through his phone, reading 6 years of messages from a life that had moved on without him. What are you going to do now? I don't know. My wife remarried, my kids grew up. The company I worked for doesn't exist anymore. I've been declared legally dead. He looked up at me with hollow eyes. I don't exist in this world. I'm a ghost. That night, I drove back to Minneapolis. Took I-94 all the way, stayed in the right lane, watched every sign carefully. Didn't see County Road 47 once, but I knew it was still out there, still waiting. It had tried to reclaim me and failed, but it wouldn't stop trying. And every time I got in my truck, every time I drove through North Dakota, I'd have to be vigilant, because the road was patient. It had been capturing drivers for decades, maybe longer. It could wait for me to make a mistake, to let my guard down for just one moment. And when I did, it would be there, with its signs and its detours and its single red light leading nowhere forever. 2 months passed. I drove my routes, made my deliveries, avoided anything that looked like County Road 47. The signs stopped appearing. The pull I'd felt that night in February faded. I started to relax, to think maybe the road had given up on me. That was my first mistake. In late April, I took a run up to Winnipeg, a long haul that would have me crossing the border into Canada. The weather was finally warming up, snow melting, roads clear. Spring in the northern plains, that brief window between winter's grip and summer's heat. I crossed into North Dakota around sunset, the sky turning orange and purple over endless flat fields. I was listening to music, thinking about nothing in particular, when my phone rang. It was the older driver I'd met in Fargo, the one who'd been running from the road for 15 years. I'd saved his number as Marcus. "Reeve, where are you right now?" "I-29 northbound, about 50 miles from the border. Why?" "Get off that highway immediately. Take any exit, any turn. Just get off 29. "What's wrong?" "I'm tracking storm patterns. There's something building over North Dakota, something that's not showing up on normal weather radar. I've seen this before. It's the road getting ready to manifest." "But it's April, clear skies, no snow." The road doesn't care about seasons. It creates its own weather, its own conditions. If it wants you bad enough, it'll make a blizzard in July. I looked at the sky, still clear, still beautiful. But I trusted Marcus. He'd survived 15 years by paying attention to patterns most people couldn't see. I took the next exit, a small one leading to a town called Grafton, population 5,000 according to the sign. I pulled into a truck stop and parked, watching the sky. Within 15 minutes, clouds started forming. Not gradually, but all at once, boiling up from the western horizon like someone had time-lapsed a storm system. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in 5 minutes, and then it started snowing. In April, heavy, thick flakes that covered the ground in seconds. My phone rang again. "Marcus, are you off the highway?" "Yeah, I'm in Grafton." "Good, stay there. Don't drive until this passes." "How long will it last?" "Hours, maybe days. The road is looking for you specifically. It'll keep the storm going until it either finds you or gives up." I settled in for a long wait. Went into the truck stop diner, ordered coffee and pie, watched the snow fall outside the windows. Other drivers were stranded too, maybe a dozen trucks in the lot. We nodded at each other, that universal acknowledgement of shared misery. Around 9 o'clock, the power went out. The diner went dark, except for emergency lights. The staff apologized, said the storm had knocked out the local grid. They'd stay open as long as they could using the backup generator. I went back to my truck to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. I kept thinking about Morrison, about those 6 years he'd lost, about the fact that he didn't exist anymore in any meaningful way. His life had moved on without him, and when the road finally released him, he came back to nothing. Is that what would happen to me if I got trapped? Would I drive that endless loop for years, decades, until the road decided to spit me back out into a world that had forgotten me? Around midnight, I heard a knock on my truck door. I turned on my interior light and saw a woman standing in the snow, probably in her 30s, wearing a heavy coat. I rolled down my window a crack. "Can I help you? Are you Reeve Calder?" My stomach dropped. Who's asking? My name is Emma Fletcher. My husband disappeared 3 months ago. Trooper Harbridge gave me your number, said you might be able to help me understand what happened. Fletcher, the driver who'd vanished when Morrison was released. The one who was still trapped on County Road 47. I don't know if I can help you, I said. Please, I just need to understand. The State Patrol says he's missing, but they won't tell me anything else. I know there's more to it. I know something strange happened. I looked at her face, saw the desperation there, the fear. She deserved to know the truth, even if it was terrifying. Get in, I said. She climbed up into the passenger seat, shaking snow off her coat. I turned up the heat and tried to figure out how to explain something I barely understood myself. Your husband drove onto County Road 47 during a storm, I said. That road, it's not like normal roads. It exists in a kind of loop, separate from regular space and time. Drivers who turn onto it get trapped, sometimes for years. She stared at me. That's insane. I know, but it's true. I drove it myself 2 months ago, almost got trapped. Your husband wasn't as lucky. So he's alive, in a sense. He's still driving, still out there somewhere, but he can't get back. Not unless the road decides to release him. How do we make it release him? We don't. We can't. The road operates by its own rules. All we can do is wait and hope. She was quiet for a long time, staring out at the falling snow. How long? Morrison was trapped for 6 years. Others have been gone longer. 6 years, she whispered. I can't wait 6 years. We have kids. They need their father. I'm sorry. Is there anyone else out there? Anyone else who knows about this? I told her about Marcus, about the network of drivers who'd encountered the road and survived, about Trooper Harbridge's investigations, about Imogene at the gas station in Argusville, who seemed to know more than she should. I need to talk to them, Emma said. I need to find a way to get him back. You can try, but Emma, you need to understand something. Your husband might not be the same person when he comes back. Morrison lost 6 years, but he also lost something else, part of himself. The road takes that from you. I don't care, I just want him home. She climbed back out of my truck and disappeared into the snow. I watched her go, feeling helpless. How many families were out there waiting for drivers who would never return? How many children would grow up wondering what happened to their parents? The storm raged all night. In the morning, it stopped as suddenly as it had started. The sun came out, temperature climbed back to normal April levels. The snow melted in hours, like it had never existed. I checked with Marcus before getting back on the road. Is it safe now? For the moment, the road expended a lot of energy creating that storm. It'll need time to recover before it tries again. How much time? Hard to say. Could be weeks, could be months. Just stay alert. I got back on I-29 and continued north to Winnipeg. Made my delivery, turned around, headed back south. Kept watching for signs, for detours, for that red taillight. Didn't see any of them. But 2 weeks later, I got a call from Trooper Harbridge. Reeve, we've had another disappearance. My hands went cold. When? Last night. Driver named Chen, hauling freight from Duluth to Fargo. Last contact was around 8 p.m., somewhere near Argusville. We found her truck this morning, parked on the shoulder of I-29. No sign of the driver. County Road 47? We think so. But here's the strange part. We checked the GPS tracking data. The truck was on I-29 the whole time, never deviated from the highway. But the driver's cell phone last pinged from a location that corresponds to the old County Road 47 route. She got pulled onto it while driving I-29? It's the only explanation. The road is getting more aggressive. It's not waiting for drivers to turn onto it anymore. It's reaching out, pulling them in from the adjacent highways. I thought about my drive through Grafton, how I'd felt that pull trying to draw me toward County Road 47. The road was evolving, adapting, finding new ways to claim its victims. What do we do? I don't know. I've contacted the Federal Highway Administration, tried to get them to issue warnings. But how do you warn people about a road that doesn't officially exist? They think I'm insane. Maybe we all are. Maybe. But insanity doesn't explain the missing drivers. Doesn't explain the GPS data, the time discrepancies, all of it. After that call, I started documenting everything. Every strange sign I saw, every pull I felt, every time my GPS glitched or my radio picked up static in specific locations. I created a map showing where the old County Road 47 used to run, where it had manifested, where drivers had disappeared. The pattern was clear. The road was expanding its territory, reaching farther from its original route, claiming a wider area. It had started with just that 60-mile stretch north of Argusville. Now it was showing up along I-29, I-94, even some state highways dozens of miles away. It was growing, and it was hungry. In June, I met with Marcus and several other drivers who'd experienced the road. We gathered at a truck stop outside of Fargo, 8 of us total, comparing notes and experiences. "It's accelerating," one driver said. He'd escaped the road 12 years ago. "Used to be you'd hear about a disappearance every couple of years. Now it's every few weeks. The road is getting stronger," Marcus said. "Each driver it captures feeds it somehow, gives it more power to manifest, to reach farther. So what do we do? Just keep running forever? What else can we do? We can't destroy it, can't close it, can't even prove it exists to anyone who hasn't experienced it. What about the drivers who are already trapped?" I asked. "Is there any way to free them?" "Morrison got released," someone pointed out. "Only because the road captured someone else to replace him. It's maintaining equilibrium, keeping its count at 7. Why 7 specifically? Nobody had an answer for that. 7 seemed to be the magic number, the amount of trapped drivers the road needed to sustain itself. When one escaped, another had to take their place, unless we could somehow free all 7 at once, break the cycle entirely. "What if we could find where the road actually exists?" I said. "Not where it manifests, but where its core is. Maybe we could disrupt it somehow." "I've tried that," Marcus said. "Spent years searching for the epicenter, never found it. The road exists everywhere and nowhere. It's not bound to one location." We talked for hours, but came to no real conclusions. The road was too powerful, too strange, too disconnected from normal reality for us to fight. The best we could do was survive, stay vigilant, and warn others. As the meeting broke up, Marcus pulled me aside. "Reeve, I need to tell you something. I didn't want to say it in front of the others." "What?" "I'm dying. Cancer. 6 months, maybe a year at most." "Marcus, I'm sorry." "Don't be. I've had 15 good years since I escaped the road. That's more than some people get. But here's the thing. When I die, I think I'll end up back there, on County Road 47. What makes you think that?" "Because I never really left. Part of me is still there, still driving that loop. The road released my body, but it kept part of my soul, my essence. I can feel it sometimes, like an anchor pulling at me. When my body dies, the anchor will pull the rest of me back." "That can't be true." "I think it is. And I think it's true for you too, for everyone who's driven that road. We're all still there, in some way. The road doesn't let you go completely. It just lets you think you've escaped. His words haunted me for weeks after that conversation. Was I really free? Or was part of me still trapped on County Road 47, following that red light forever? I started having dreams. In them, I was driving through endless snow, following a red glow that never got closer. Mile after mile after mile, with no beginning and no end. Just the road and the storm and the light. And when I woke up, I wasn't sure which version was real. The one where I was safe in my apartment, or the one where I was still driving, still trapped, dreaming of escape. August came, and with it a heat wave that turned the northern plains into an oven. Temperatures hit the hundreds, the air shimmering over black asphalt. The last thing anyone expected was snow. But on August 15th, at 3 in the afternoon, it started snowing in Argusville, North Dakota. Not everywhere, just a localized area, a bubble of winter in the middle of summer. The temperature inside the bubble was 20 degrees. Outside, it was 98. Trooper Harbridge called me. It's happening again. The road is manifesting in broad daylight now, creating its own weather regardless of season. How many drivers are in the area? At least a dozen that we know of. We're trying to warn them, but we can't get through to everyone. I'm heading up there. Reeve, no. That's exactly what the road wants. I know. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it's time to stop running. I drove north from Minneapolis, watching the sky. The snow bubble was visible from miles away, a column of white in clear blue sky. It looked unnatural, impossible, like a tear in reality. As I got closer, I could see trucks pulled over on the shoulder, drivers standing outside their cabs, staring at the phenomenon. The snow was falling inside a perfect circle, maybe 5 miles in diameter. Inside the circle, it was winter. Outside, summer. I parked at the edge and got out. The temperature line was sharp, like walking through a door. One step, and I went from sweltering heat to freezing cold. County Road 47 was visible inside the snow bubble. The turnoff had manifested right off I-29, the pavement looking old and cracked, covered in fresh snow. And on that road, about a quarter-mile in, I could see it, the red taillight, waiting. Other drivers had gathered at the edge of the bubble, drawn by curiosity or concern. I saw Emma Fletcher there. Morrison's wife had told her about me. She was staring at the road with an expression I couldn't read. "Is he in there?" she asked when she saw me. "Probably. All 7 of them might be." "I'm going in." "Emma, no. If you drive onto that road, you'll get trapped too." "I don't care. I need to see him. I need to know he's still alive." Before I could stop her, she started walking towards the turnoff. Other people tried to grab her, but she pulled away, determined. I went after her. "Emma, wait. Think about your kids." "I am thinking about them. They need their father. If there's any chance I can bring him back, I have to try." She kept walking, getting closer to County Road 47. As she approached the turnoff, the red taillight began moving, driving slowly down the road, deeper into the snow, leading her in. "Emma, that light is a trap. It's not your husband. It's the road itself trying to lure you." I know what I'm doing. But I could see in her eyes that she didn't. She was desperate, grieving, willing to believe anything that might reunite her with her husband. The road knew that, fed on that vulnerability. I made a decision. I ran past her, putting myself between her and the road. If anyone's going in, it's me. I've been there before. I know how it works. "Reeve, don't." Trooper Harbridge had arrived, was trying to set up a perimeter. "We don't know what will happen if you go back. I know exactly what will happen. I'll get trapped like the others, but maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe the road won't stop until it has me. That's suicide." Maybe. Or maybe it's the only way to end this. I started walking toward the turnoff. Behind me, I heard people shouting, trying to stop me. But I kept going, following that red light deeper into the snow. As I stepped onto County Road 47, everything changed. The sounds from behind me cut off instantly like someone had closed a door. The temperature dropped another 20 degrees, and I was alone on an empty road with only the red light ahead of me. I didn't have my truck, so I walked. The road stretched out in both directions, perfectly straight, disappearing into white distance. No farmhouses, no landmarks, just road and snow and that glowing red light always the same distance ahead. I walked for what felt like hours. My feet went numb, then my hands, then my face. But I kept going because there was nothing else to do. The road offered only one direction: forward. Eventually, I saw them. The trucks appeared out of the snow like ghosts, 7 of them, all different models from different eras. They were driving in a line, following each other, following the red light. Slow and steady, never stopping, never speeding up. I flagged down the first truck. It pulled over, and the driver looked down at me through the window. It was Morrison, but different. His face was blurry, indistinct, like a photograph that had been copied too many times. "Reeve Calder," he said. His voice was hollow, distant. "I wondered when you'd come back. I'm here to get you out, all of you. There is no out. This is the road now. This is forever. Morrison, you got out before, in April. You walked into that gas station, remember?" He looked confused. "I've never left this road. I've been driving here for, I don't know how long, years maybe. Time doesn't work right here. You did leave. You came back to the real world for a few hours. Your wife is waiting for you. Emma is out there right now trying to find you." At the mention of his wife's name, something changed in Morrison's blurred face, a flicker of recognition, of pain. "Emma," he whispered. "She hasn't given up on you. None of them have. Fletcher's wife, Chen's family, all of them are waiting." The other trucks had stopped too, 6 more drivers, all with that same blurred, fading quality. I recognized some of them from photos Harbridge had shown me. People who'd been missing for years, decades in some cases. "We can't leave," one of them said. "The road won't let us. What if we all leave at once? All 7 of you, plus me. We overwhelm it, break the pattern." "We've tried that," another driver said. "Whenever we try to turn around, the road just loops us back. We end up exactly where we started. Because you tried to go back the way you came. But what if we go forward? What if we drive through the red light instead of following it?" They all stared at me like I was insane. "Nobody drives through the light," Morrison said. "That's the one rule everyone understands. You follow the light, you never catch it, you never cross it. But what if that's exactly what we need to do? The light is the road's control mechanism. It keeps you chasing, keeps you moving in the pattern it wants. If we break that pattern, drive through it instead of following it, maybe we break free." There was a long silence. The drivers looked at each other uncertain. Finally, Morrison spoke. "I've been here for 6 years. If there's any chance this works, I'll try it." The others agreed, one by one. We formed a plan. All 7 trucks would drive in formation, building up speed, then drive straight through the red light at the same moment. I'd ride with Morrison in the lead truck. I climbed up into his cab. It was freezing inside, frost covering every surface. Morrison's hands on the wheel were almost translucent, barely there. "If this works," he said, "will I be solid again? Will I be real? I don't know, but you'll be back with Emma. That's what matters." He nodded and started the engine. Behind us, the other 6 trucks fired up their engines too. The sound was strange, muffled, like it was coming from very far away. We started driving, slowly at first, then faster. The red light was ahead, constant and unchanging. As we accelerated toward it, I could feel the road resisting, trying to slow us down. The steering wheel fought against Morrison's grip. "Keep going," I shouted. We were doing 60 now, all 7 trucks in tight formation. The red light was getting closer, larger, filling our vision. It wasn't a tail light at all, I realized. It was a doorway, a portal, a tear in the fabric of the road itself. At 70 miles per hour, we hit it. Everything went white. Not snow white, but light white. Pure and blinding. I felt the truck dissolving around me, felt myself coming apart, every atom separating and floating free. Then, everything snapped back together. We were on I-29, in normal space, under a normal August sky. All 7 trucks materialized simultaneously on the highway, appearing out of nowhere. We must have looked insane to other drivers. 7 rigs suddenly existing where there had been empty road a second before. Morrison pulled over on the shoulder, shaking. Behind us, the other trucks did the same. I looked in the side mirror and saw the snow bubble was gone. The tear in reality had closed. We'd made it out, all of us. Morrison looked at his hands. They were solid again, fully real. Color was returning to his face, definition to his features. "Did we really do it?" he asked. "Yeah, we did." I climbed out and walked back to check on the other drivers. They were all there, all solid, all real again. Some were crying, some were laughing. All were stunned by the sudden return to normal reality. State patrol vehicles were arriving, Harbridge leading them. He ran up to me, his face a mixture of shock and relief. What the hell just happened? 7 trucks just appeared on the highway out of thin air. "We broke the pattern," I said. "Drove through the red light instead of following it. The road couldn't hold us anymore." Emma Fletcher was there, running toward one of the trucks. Her husband climbed down, and they embraced, both crying. It was the first time they'd touched in 3 months, though for him it had been much longer. The other drivers reunited with their families over the next few hours. Some had been gone for weeks, others for years. They all had the same story. They'd been driving County Road 47 in an endless loop, following the red light, until we'd all driven through it together and broken free. Harbridge pulled me aside later. "Do you think it's really over? Is the road gone?" "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe it's just weakened, temporarily dormant. It might come back. If it does, we'll be ready. We've documented everything this time. Photos, videos, statements from 7 drivers who can all corroborate the same story. The federal government can't ignore this anymore." But I wasn't sure about that. The road had existed for decades, maybe longer, capturing drivers and releasing them according to its own strange rules. Would it really let us go so easily? That night, I drove past Argusville on my way back to Minneapolis. Slowed down as I passed the area where County Road 47 used to turn off. The turnoff wasn't there anymore. Just normal interstate, normal shoulder, normal farmland beyond. But as I accelerated past, I caught something in my peripheral vision. A red glow, barely visible in the darkness. There and gone in an instant. The road was still out there, watching, waiting. Maybe it would manifest again during the next blizzard. Maybe it would find new drivers to trap, new patterns to create. Or maybe we'd really broken it, ended its reign over this stretch of North Dakota highway. I'd never know for sure. But I do know this. I'll never stop watching for it. Never stop checking my mirrors for that red taillight. Never stop listening for the CB static that means the road is near. Because some things don't stay buried. Some roads don't stay closed. And County Road 47 had been patient for a very long time. It could afford to wait a little longer. My name is Merritt Halcomb, and I've been hauling freight across the Northern Plains for 9 years. Most people think the danger out here comes from weather or bad roads or equipment failure. They're wrong. The real danger comes from being alone in places where you shouldn't be alone, where the isolation does strange things to reality itself. I learned that lesson on Highway 20 between Valentine, Nebraska, and Fargo, North Dakota. It was the third week of January, and I was running a tight schedule. Picked up a load of agricultural equipment in North Platte, needed to deliver it to a farm supply company outside Fargo by Friday morning. That gave me about 18 hours to cover 500 miles through some of the emptiest country in America. The route was straightforward. Highway 20 east through the Nebraska Sandhills, then north through South Dakota into North Dakota. In summer, it's beautiful country, rolling hills covered in prairie grass, the occasional ranch house standing alone against the sky. In January, it's desolate, just snow and wind and endless white horizon. I left North Platte at 4 in the afternoon, planning to drive straight through the night. The weather forecast showed snow moving in around midnight, but nothing severe. Just another winter system rolling across the plains. The sun was already low when I reached Valentine, the last real town before a long stretch of nothing. I stopped to fuel up and grab coffee, checking the weather one more time on my phone. The forecast had changed. What had been predicted as light snow was now showing as a major blizzard warning. Winter storm conditions, possible whiteout, travel not recommended. I stood there in the parking lot of the truck stop, watching the western sky turn dark gray, and debated my options. I could park here in Valentine and wait out the storm, lose a day on my delivery. Or I could push through, try to make it to Aberdeen or Watertown in South Dakota before the worst hit. I chose wrong. By 6 o'clock, I was 60 miles east of Valentine on Highway 20, and the snow had started. Light at first, but building fast. The wind was picking up too, that constant prairie wind that never stops, never gives you a break. It pushed against the truck, made the trailer sway. The landscape out here is strange, even in good weather. The Sandhills region is all rolling dunes covered in grass, no trees, no landmarks. Just waves of land like a frozen ocean. When the snow started to obscure the hills, everything blended together into one white mass. At 7:30, visibility dropped to near zero. I was doing 30 miles per hour, following the road more by feel than sight. No other traffic, no lights from houses or towns, just me and the truck and the storm. I tried the CB radio. "This is Merritt Halcomb eastbound on Highway 20. Anyone copy?" Static, then a voice. Male, older, rough from years of smoking. "This is Boone Merrick westbound, about 40 miles east of your position. Weather's getting bad out here." "Same on my end. Thinking about finding somewhere to stop. There's a rest area coming up on your side in about 15 miles. Might want to pull in and wait this out." "Copy that. Thanks for the heads up." The transmission ended, and I focused on driving. 15 miles at 30 miles per hour meant another half hour in the storm. I could manage that. The rest area appeared suddenly in my headlights, a small sign barely visible through the snow. I almost missed the turnoff, had to brake hard and swing the truck onto the access road. The road curved into what looked like a parking area, and I could make out the dark shape of a building ahead. I pulled into a parking spot and killed the engine, sitting there for a moment, listening to the wind hammer against the truck. Through the windshield, I could see the rest area building. It was bigger than I expected, a proper facility with what looked like a main building and some auxiliary structures. Unusual for this stretch of highway. I grabbed my heavy coat and climbed down from the cab. The wind hit me immediately, so cold it hurt to breathe. Snow stung my face like needles. I put my head down and walked toward the main building, my boots crunching in fresh snow. The building was dark. No lights in the windows, no glow from the parking lot lamps. I tried the door and found it unlocked. It swung open with a creak, and I stepped inside, out of the wind. The sudden silence was disorienting. Outside, the storm was screaming. Inside, nothing. Just darkness, and the smell of stale air and something else, something like wet concrete. I pulled out my phone and used the flashlight to look around. I was in a main lobby area with vending machines along one wall, bathroom doors on another, and what looked like an information desk near the entrance. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust. "Hello?" My voice echoed strangely in the empty space. "Anyone here?" No response. I walked further in, my phone light cutting through the darkness. There were benches along the walls, a few trash cans, posters about Nebraska attractions that looked faded and old. The vending machines were empty, their glass fronts dark. This place had been closed for a while, but the door had been unlocked. And Boone Merrick had told me about it like it was an active rest stop. I found a bank of light switches near the entrance and flipped them. Nothing happened. Either the power was out because of the storm, or the building had been disconnected from the grid. My phone buzzed. I checked it and saw I had no signal. Not unusual out here, especially in a storm. I'd have to rely on the CB radio in my truck if I needed to communicate. I was about to go back outside when I heard something. A sound from deeper in the building, like a door closing. I froze, listening. "Hello? Someone there?" Footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from a hallway that led off the main lobby. I pointed my phone light toward the sound. A woman appeared at the end of the hallway. She was maybe 50, wearing what looked like a maintenance uniform. Gray coveralls with a name tag I couldn't read from this distance. She blinked against my light. "You startled me," she said. Her voice was flat, tired. "Didn't expect anyone to stop tonight. I didn't think this place was open. No lights, no power. Storm knocked out the electricity about an hour ago. I've got a generator running in back, but it's only powering essential systems. Heat and water, mostly." She walked closer, and I could see her name tag now. Edra Klein. "I'm Merritt Halcomb, just looking for somewhere to wait out this weather." "You picked a good night for it. This storm's supposed to last until morning." She looked past me toward the windows. "You alone out there?" "Yeah. Well, I talked to another driver on the CB, guy named Boone Merrick, said he was westbound." Something changed in her expression. Just for a second, a flicker of something I couldn't identify. "Boone Merrick? You're sure that was the name?" "Yeah, why?" "Nothing. Just thought I knew someone by that name once." She turned away, heading back toward the hallway. "You're welcome to stay. There's a common area with some chairs if you want to get warm. Can't offer you much else, I'm afraid." I followed her down the hallway. The building seemed larger on the inside than it had looked from outside, with multiple corridors branching off in different directions. We passed several closed doors, each one marked with faded signs. Storage, maintenance, employees only. The common area was a large room with windows along one wall, now completely black with night and storm. There were maybe a dozen chairs arranged around low tables, and against the far wall, a coffee station that looked like it hadn't been used in years. "How long have you worked here?" I asked Idra. She was adjusting a thermostat on the wall. "Long time. Too long, probably. Not many people stop here anymore since they built the new facilities further east." So why stay open? Someone has to maintain the place. Make sure it's here for travelers who need it. She finished with the thermostat and turned to face me. You should try to get some sleep. A storm like this, you'll be here until dawn at least. What about you? You staying here all night? I live here, in a sense. Got quarters in the back. I'll be around if you need anything. She walked toward one of the side doors, then stopped and looked back at me. One thing. Don't go wandering around the building at night. Some of the areas aren't safe. Structural damage from the cold, pipes that might burst. Stick to this room and the main lobby. Okay. And if you hear anything strange, just ignore it. Old buildings make all kinds of sounds in a storm. She left through the side door, and I was alone in the common area. I settled into one of the chairs and pulled out my phone. Still no signal. I checked the battery, 60%. I'd need to conserve power. Through the windows I could see nothing but snow driving horizontally across the glass. The storm was getting worse. I'd made the right call stopping here, even if this place gave me an uneasy feeling. I tried to sleep but couldn't. The room was too quiet, and every few minutes I'd hear sounds from elsewhere in the building. Creaks and groans, the sound of wind finding gaps in the structure. Once, I heard what sounded like footsteps above me, but that didn't make sense. This looked like a single-story building. Around 9 o'clock, I decided to check my truck, make sure everything was secure. I walked back through the hallway toward the main lobby, using my phone light to navigate. That's when I saw the security monitors. They were set up behind the information desk, 4 small screens showing different angles of the building. I hadn't noticed them before because they'd been dark. Now they were on, displaying grainy black and white footage. The top left monitor showed the parking lot. I could see my truck through the snow, along with 2 other vehicles I hadn't noticed before. A pickup truck and what looked like another big rig. The top right monitor showed the main lobby from a high angle. Empty. The bottom left showed a hallway I hadn't been down yet, and the bottom right showed the common area I'd just left. In the common area monitor, I could see someone sitting in the chair I'd been in. A man, heavy-set, wearing a heavy coat. He was looking directly at the camera. I spun around, but there was no one else in the lobby with me. I looked back at the monitor. The man was still there, still staring at the camera. I walked quickly back to the common area. It was empty. No one in any of the chairs. Back at the monitors, the man was gone. The room showed empty, just like I'd found it. I stood there for a long moment, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. A glitch in the system, maybe. Old equipment showing a recording instead of a live feed. But the timestamp in the corner of the screen showed the current time. And I'd watched the man move, shift his position slightly. It hadn't been a static image. I checked the other monitors more carefully. The parking lot view showed 3 vehicles. Mine, a pickup, and another truck. But when I went to the window and looked out, I could only see my Freightliner. The other vehicles weren't there. The hallway monitor showed movement. A figure walking away from the camera, heading deeper into the building. Too far away to identify, but definitely a person. I grabbed the CB radio from my truck and brought it inside, setting it up on the information desk. I tried calling Boone Merrick. Boone, this is Merritt. You copy? Static for a moment, then his voice came through. I copy, Merritt. You make it to that rest stop? Yeah, I'm here. You still on the road? No, I pulled over about 10 miles back. Found an abandoned barn, got the truck under cover. This storm's too much to drive through. Boone, when you told me about this rest stop, did you know it was closed? A pause. Closed? What do you mean? There's no power. Place looks like it's been shut down for a while. There's a maintenance worker here, says they keep it minimally operational, but I'm not sure I believe her. Another pause, longer this time. When Boone spoke again, His voice sounded different. Careful. Merritt, what's the name of the worker? Edra Klein. Why? Silence on the other end. Just static. Boone, you there? Merritt, listen to me very carefully. You need to get out of that building right now. Get in your truck and leave, storm or no storm. My heart started pounding. What's going on? That rest stop closed 10 years ago. State decommissioned it in 2014. It's been abandoned ever since. That can't be right. I'm standing in it right now. Edra's here. I talked to her. Edra Klein was the last maintenance supervisor. She died in 2015. Car accident on Highway 20, about 5 miles from the rest stop. I felt ice spreading through my chest. You're wrong. She's here. She's real. Merritt, there have been reports about that place for years. Travelers who stopped there during storms saw things that couldn't be real. Some of them never left. Get out of there now. I looked at the security monitors. The common area view showed the man again, sitting in the same chair. But now he was looking towards the hallway, toward where I was standing. On the hallway monitor, I saw myself, standing at the information desk, looking at the screens. But on the parking lot monitor, there were now 4 vehicles. My truck, the pickup, another big rig, and a car I didn't recognize. Boone, the security cameras are showing things that aren't there. People, vehicles. Those aren't security cameras, Merritt. They're showing you what's trapped in that building. Residual images, echoes of people who stopped there and never left. I looked at the monitor showing the common area. The man was standing now, walking toward the hallway. Toward me. I spun around. The hallway was empty. Back on the monitor, the man was getting closer to the camera. His face was becoming clearer. Heavy features, gray beard, wearing a coat with a company logo I couldn't quite read. Merritt, are you listening? Boone's voice was urgent now. You need to go. Right now. The storm is part of it. That place draws people in during bad weather, traps them somehow. The longer you stay, the harder it'll be to leave. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, heavy footsteps getting closer. I didn't look back. I pushed through the main door into the storm, the wind hitting me like a physical blow. Snow drove into my face, blinding me. I stumbled toward where my truck should be, and stopped. There were 4 vehicles in the parking lot now. My Freightliner, a pickup truck with Nebraska plates, an older model Kenworth, and a sedan with its hazard lights blinking. The vehicles from the security monitor. They were real now, or I was seeing what the cameras saw. I reached my truck and climbed in, slamming the door against the wind. My hands were shaking as I started the engine. It turned over once, twice, then died. Come on, I whispered. Come on. I tried again. The engine coughed but didn't catch. Through the windshield, I saw the main door of the rest stop open. Edra Klein stood in the doorway, backlit by darkness, looking directly at my truck. She raised one hand, not waving, just holding it up. A gesture that might have been greeting or might have been warning. The engine caught on the 3rd try. I threw the truck into gear and pulled forward, my tires slipping in the snow. The parking lot seemed longer than it should be, the exit impossibly far away. In my mirror, I saw the other vehicles start their engines. Headlights flipped on, one by one. They were following me. I hit the access road doing 40, way too fast for these conditions. The truck fishtailed and I fought the wheel, keeping it from spinning out. Behind me, the other vehicles followed in a line, maintaining perfect distance. When I reached Highway 20, I didn't slow down. I turned east and accelerated, pushing the truck as fast as I dared. The vehicles behind me kept pace for about a mile, then one by one they started to fade. their headlights growing dimmer until they disappeared entirely. I drove for another hour before I felt safe enough to stop. Found a closed gas station in a town called Ainsworth and pulled into the parking lot, leaving the engine running. My whole body was shaking. The CB crackled. "Merritt, you make it out?" "Yeah, Boone, I'm out." "Where are you?" "Ainsworth, about 60 miles east." "Good, that's good. Stay there until the storm clears. Don't go back." "Boone, what is that place?" "I don't know exactly, but I've heard stories about it for years. Travelers who stop there and lose time. People who arrive but never leave. Some folks say it's a loop, a pocket of reality that got stuck somehow. Others say it's haunted. All I know for sure is that people go in and don't come out. But I got out. For now. But Merritt, here's the thing you need to understand. That place might have let you go, or you might not have left at all." "What do you mean? How do you know you're really in Ainsworth? How do you know this isn't part of the rest stop, making you think you escaped?" I looked around at the dark gas station, the empty parking lot, the falling snow. Everything looked real, but so had Edra Klein, so had those security monitors. "I'm real," I said. "This is real." "Maybe, but keep an eye on things. Watch for signs that reality isn't quite right. Because if you're still in that place, if you didn't really escape, you'll start to notice the edges fraying, the same moments repeating, time not moving forward properly." The transmission ended. I sat in my truck, engine idling, watching the snow fall, counting the minutes to make sure they passed normally, checking my phone to make sure the time matched my watch. Everything seemed normal, but Boone's words echoed in my head. "How do you know this isn't part of the rest stop?" And the terrible thing was, I didn't know. I couldn't know for certain. Because if reality could bend enough to show me dead people on security monitors, if a building could trap travelers in some kind of loop, then how could I trust anything I perceived? I waited there until dawn, when the storm finally broke and the sky began to lighten. Other vehicles started appearing on the highway, normal morning traffic. I talked to a couple of truckers on the CB, discussed road conditions and weather forecasts. Everything was ordinary, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched, that somewhere behind me, in a rest stop that shouldn't exist, Edra Klein was standing in a doorway, her hand raised in that ambiguous gesture, waiting for me to realize I'd never really left at all. I made my delivery in Fargo the next morning, still shaken but trying to act normal. The receiving clerk signed for the equipment, made small talk about the weather. Everything was routine, ordinary. But I kept checking my phone, making sure the timestamp was advancing properly. Kept looking at my watch, comparing it to the clock on the wall, making sure time was moving forward in a straight line. After the delivery, I called my dispatcher to report in. She answered on the second ring. "Merritt, there you are. We were getting worried. You dropped off our tracking system for about 6 hours last night." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean, dropped off?" "Your GPS tracker went dark around 7 p.m. and didn't come back online until 1 in the morning. We tried calling but couldn't reach you. What happened?" "I stopped at a rest area during the storm. Must have been in a dead zone." "For 6 hours? That's unusual. Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired." But I wasn't fine. If my GPS had gone dark for 6 hours, that meant I'd lost time at the rest stop. More time than I remembered. I'd thought I'd only been there for maybe 2 hours before escaping. What happened during those other 4 hours? I drove to a truck stop in Fargo and parked, trying to piece together the timeline. I'd arrived at the rest stop around 7:30. Talked to Edra, explored the building, saw the security monitors. Then I'd fled to my truck and driven to Ainsworth, arriving around. I checked my phone log. My last call before the rest stop had been at 7:15. My next call to my wife had been at 1:45 in the morning. 6.5 hours unaccounted for. But I remembered the whole sequence of events. Arriving, talking to Idra, seeing the monitors, fleeing. It couldn't have taken more than 2 hours, unless my memory was wrong, or unless time worked differently in that building. I tried to reach Boone Merrick on the CB, called his handle, waited for a response. Nothing. Tried several more times over the next hour. He never answered. That night, I stayed at a motel in Fargo. Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those security monitors. The man sitting in the chair, staring at the camera. The parking lot with vehicles that shouldn't exist. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and turned on the TV. Flipped through channels, looking for anything to distract my mind. I stopped on a local news station. They were running a story about highway safety, warning travelers to be careful during winter storms. The stretch of Highway 20 between Valentine and Ainsworth is particularly dangerous, the reporter was saying. In the past decade, 17 travelers have been reported missing along this route. Search efforts have found abandoned vehicles but no sign of the drivers. 17 people, gone without explanation. I grabbed my laptop and started researching. Found news articles about the missing travelers. Most of them had disappeared during winter storms. Their vehicles had been found at various points along Highway 20, but the drivers had simply vanished. 2 of the articles mentioned a rest stop. Travelers had been headed there before they disappeared, but the rest stop wasn't named, just described as a facility east of Valentine. I dug deeper and found an old state document about rest area closures. In 2014, Nebraska had decommissioned several facilities along Highway 20, including one located approximately 70 miles east of Valentine. The reason given was structural concerns and declining usage. The document included photos of the facilities before closure. I recognized the building immediately, same layout, same architecture. It was the rest stop where I'd spent the night. But according to official records, it had been locked and secured a decade ago. No maintenance staff, no operations. Just an empty building slowly deteriorating in the prairie weather. So, who was Edra Klein? I searched her name and found an obituary from 2015. Edra Marie Klein, age 54, died in a single-vehicle accident on Highway 20. She had been the last supervisor of the rest area before its closure, staying on to oversee the shutdown process. The accident had occurred at night, during a snowstorm. Her car had left the road about 5 miles from the rest stop. She'd been found the next morning, frozen to death. The obituary included a photo. It was the woman I'd talked to. Same face, same tired eyes. I was sitting in a motel room in Fargo, looking at a photo of a dead woman who I'd spoken to less than 24 hours ago. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Merritt Halcomb? The voice was male, professional. Yes. This is Frank Dalton with the Nebraska State Patrol. I'm calling about an incident you may have witnessed last night on Highway 20. What incident? We received a CB transmission around 8 p.m. from a trucker named Boone Merrick. He was calling for assistance, said he'd pulled into an abandoned barn to wait out the storm. But when our units arrived at his location, there was no barn and no truck, just empty farmland. I felt cold spreading through my body. Did you find him? No, we've been searching since last night. His truck's GPS tracker shows his last known position as approximately 40 miles east of Valentine, but there's nothing at that location. We're expanding the search, but... He paused. Mr. Halcomb. Boone Merrick mentioned your name in his transmission. Said he'd been talking to you on the CB. Can you tell me about that conversation? I told him everything. The storm, the rest stop, talking to Boone, the security monitors. Dalton listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long silence, then, "Mr. Halcombe, I need to ask you a question, and I need you to answer honestly. Have you been drinking or using any substances?" "No, I'm telling you what happened." "The rest stop you described closed in 2014. There's no one working there, and Edra Klein has been dead for 9 years. I know how it sounds, but I was there. I saw her. I saw things on those security monitors that weren't real, and I got out before whatever was happening could trap me." Other travelers have reported similar experiences. Seeing the rest stop open, encountering staff, losing time. We've investigated these reports extensively. The building is locked. There's no power, no running water, no signs of recent habitation. Then, how did I get inside? How did I talk to Idra? I don't have an answer for that. But I can tell you this. 17 people have gone missing on that stretch of highway in the past 10 years, all during winter storms, all reporting strange experiences before they disappeared. And we've never found any of them. What do you think is happening? Officially, I think it's a combination of severe weather, disorientation, and poor decision-making. Travelers get confused in the storm, abandon their vehicles, and succumb to the cold. He paused. Unofficially, I think there's something wrong with that stretch of highway, something we don't understand and can't explain. Have you ever been inside the rest stop? Several times. It's just an empty building, no security monitors, no furniture, no signs of activity. The power has been disconnected. The water is shut off. It's completely abandoned. But I was there. I saw all those things. I believe you saw something, Mr. Halcombe. I just don't think it was the same building I've been inside. The conversation stayed with me for days. I tried to go back to my normal routes, normal deliveries, but I couldn't stop thinking about the rest stop, about Edra Klein and Boone Merrick and those 17 missing travelers. Were they still there somehow, trapped in a version of the building that existed alongside the abandoned structure? Experiencing the rest stop as it had been when it was operational, unaware that the real world had moved on without them. 2 weeks later, I was hauling a load through South Dakota and found myself approaching Highway 20. It was a clear day, no storms, perfect visibility. I could take the highway east, shave 2 hours off my trip to Sioux Falls. I took a different route instead, added 3 hours to the drive, because I knew if I got anywhere near that rest stop, I might not be able to resist stopping. Might need to see if it was really abandoned, or if Edra was still there, waiting. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened to the message later, all I heard was static. But buried in the static, I could almost make out a voice, someone saying my name. I deleted the message and blocked the number. A month passed, then another. I avoided Highway 20 entirely. Took routes that added hours and miles to my trips. My dispatcher complained about the inefficiency, but I didn't care. I wasn't going back to that stretch of road. In March, I was in a truck stop outside of Rapid City when another driver approached me. Older guy, maybe 65, with the weathered look of someone who'd been driving for decades. "You're Merritt Halcombe," he said. "That's right. I heard about what happened to you on Highway 20 at the rest stop. How did you hear about that?" "Word gets around among drivers. We share stories, warn each other about dangerous places. And that rest stop has a reputation. You've been there? 30 years ago. I was young, stupid, thought I could handle any weather. Got caught in a blizzard and pulled into the rest stop to wait it out. Met a maintenance supervisor named Edra Klein. She told me to stay in the common area, not to wander around. I didn't listen." He pulled up a chair and sat down, his expression distant. I explored the building that night, found areas that shouldn't have existed, rooms that were bigger on the inside than the outside, hallways that looped back on themselves, and I found other people, travelers who'd stopped there years before, maybe decades. They were still there, still waiting for the storm to clear. Did you get out? Obviously, but I lost 3 days. To me, it felt like 3 hours. But when I finally left and checked the date, 3 days had passed in the real world. My company had reported me missing. My family had started mourning. What happened during those 3 days? I don't remember. I have flashes, fragments. Walking the same hallways over and over, sitting in the common area watching snow that never changed, seeing the same people in the same positions every time I passed by, like they were frozen in time. How did you escape? I don't think I did escape. I think the rest stop let me go, released me for reasons I don't understand. And I've spent 30 years wondering if I really left, or if I'm still there, dreaming this whole life. He looked at me with haunted eyes. That's what it does, Merritt. It makes you question what's real. Even decades later, I still don't know for certain. I see things sometimes, little glitches that suggest I might still be in that building. Time skipping forward unexpectedly. People I know acting slightly wrong, like they're not quite themselves. Moments that repeat too precisely to be coincidence. How do you live with that uncertainty? You don't. You just keep moving, keep driving, keep hoping that this version of reality is the real one, but you never quite believe it. He stood up to leave, then turned back. One more thing. If you ever find yourself near that rest stop again, if something draws you back, there's a way to test whether you're still trapped. How? The snow. Inside the building, if you're trapped, the snow outside never changes. It falls at the same angle, the same intensity, forever. The drifts never grow. The accumulation never increases. It's the same storm, looping endlessly. But if you're in the real world, the snow changes. The storm evolves. That's how you know which side of reality you're on. After he left, I sat there thinking about what he'd said. The snow never changing, an eternal storm, holding travelers in suspension. That night, I dreamed about the rest stop. I was walking through its hallways looking for a way out. But every door I opened led to another hallway. Every window showed the same scene. Falling snow, parking lot, my truck, waiting. In the dream, I found the common area. The man from the security monitor was sitting in the chair, still staring. I asked him how long he'd been there. I don't know, he said. I stopped counting after the first year. Or maybe it's been a day. Time doesn't move properly here. How do I leave? You already left. You got in your truck and drove to Ainsworth. You're in Fargo now, sleeping in a motel. This is just a dream. Then, why does it feel more real than being awake? He smiled, but it was a sad smile. Because part of you never left. Part of you is still here, will always be here. This place takes a piece of everyone who enters. You gave it a piece of yourself when you walked through that door. I woke up in my motel room, heart pounding. Checked my phone. 3:27 a.m. Same time I'd been waking up every night since the rest stop. I got up and looked out the window. Snow was falling, even though the forecast had called for clear skies. The flakes fell at a perfect diagonal, driven by steady wind. The accumulation on the ground never seemed to increase. I watched for an hour. The snow kept falling at exactly the same angle. The wind never varied. The drifts outside never grew higher. According to the old driver's test, this meant I was still trapped, still in the rest stop, experiencing a loop that I mistook for real life. But when I checked the weather radar on my phone, It showed the storm system moving northeast, evolving normally. When I went downstairs to the lobby, other guests were complaining about the unexpected snow, surprised by the change in forecast. It was a real storm, not a looped one. Or maybe it was a very sophisticated loop, one detailed enough to include weather radar and other people's reactions. How could I ever know for certain? That question haunted me through the spring and into summer. I kept driving, kept making deliveries, but I watched everything carefully, looking for signs of repetition, for glitches that would reveal I was still trapped. Sometimes I found them, a conversation that played out exactly like one I'd had weeks before, a route that seemed to take the same amount of time regardless of traffic or weather. Moments when the world felt slightly unreal, slightly off. Were these genuine anomalies, or was I just noticing the normal patterns of life and misinterpreting them as signs of being trapped? I didn't know. I couldn't know, and that uncertainty became my constant companion, more reliable than any map or GPS. The knowledge that I might still be in that rest stop, that everything since might be an elaborate dream or simulation, and I'd never be able to prove otherwise. Summer came, and with it a call I'd been dreading. My dispatcher had a load that needed to run from Denver to Bismarck, and the most efficient route went straight through Nebraska on Highway 20. I can't take that run, I said. Why not? It's good money, and you know that route. I need to avoid Highway 20, any route that doesn't use that road. Merritt, that adds a full day to the delivery. The client won't accept that delay. Then give the load to someone else. There was a long pause. Is this about what happened in January? The rest stop thing? Word had gotten around the company, apparently. Drivers talk, stories spread. It's about me not wanting to drive that road anymore. Look, I get it. You had a weird experience, but it's been 6 months. You can't avoid an entire highway system forever because of one bad night. Watch me. I hung up and stared at my phone, knowing I'd probably just cost myself a good client. But I didn't care. I wasn't going anywhere near that rest stop. 2 days later, my dispatcher called back. I gave the Denver-Bismarck run to another driver, a guy named Porter. He's running Highway 20 tonight. Why are you telling me this? Because you might want to monitor the CB on Channel 19, just in case. She hung up. I sat there for a moment, then grabbed my CB radio and tuned it to Channel 19. Started listening. For hours, nothing. Normal trucker chatter, weather reports, warnings about speed traps. Then, around 11 p.m., a new voice came on. This is Porter eastbound on Highway 20. Anyone familiar with this route? Another driver responded. What's your 20, Porter? About 70 miles east of Valentine. Visibility's getting bad. Might need to find somewhere to stop. My hands tightened on the CB handset. 70 miles east of Valentine. Right where the rest stop should be. Porter, this is Merritt Halcomb. Do you copy? I copy, Merritt. You know this area? Yeah. Listen carefully. If you see a rest area in the next few miles, do not stop there. Keep driving. Find somewhere else. Why? What's wrong with the rest area? How could I explain? That it trapped people in loops? That the maintenance supervisor was dead but still working there? That time didn't function properly inside the building? Just trust me, don't stop there. Merritt, the weather's getting really bad. I need to get off the road. Find a town. Ainsworth is about 40 miles ahead. You can make it. I don't think I can. Visibility is almost zero. Wait, I see something. Looks like a rest area sign. Porter, no. Keep driving. I'm pulling in. Can't risk staying on the highway in these conditions. Porter, listen to me. But he was gone. The CB went to static. I grabbed my phone and called my dispatcher. Porter just pulled into the rest stop. You need to send help. Merritt, it's midnight. There's a storm. What do you want me to do? Call the Nebraska State Patrol. Tell them a driver is stopped at the decommissioned rest area on Highway 20, approximately 70 miles east of Valentine. They need to get there now. You're serious about this? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. She said she'd make the call. I spent the next hour trying to raise Porter on the CB. Nothing but static. At 1 a.m., my phone rang. State Patrol. Mr. Halcomb, this is Trooper Vasquez. We responded to your report about a driver at the old rest stop. We're at the location now. The building is locked. No signs of entry. There's no truck in the parking lot. Check again. He pulled in there an hour ago. Sir, we've searched the entire facility. The doors are chained shut. There are no tire tracks in the snow. No one has been here. That's impossible. I heard him on the CB. He said he was pulling into the rest area. We're expanding the search along Highway 20. If we find anything, we'll let you know. They never found Porter or his truck. By morning, he was officially listed as missing. The company started an investigation, reviewed his GPS tracking data. According to the tracker, he'd never stopped at the rest area. His truck had continued east on Highway 20, then simply disappeared from the system. The last GPS coordinates placed him exactly at the location of the decommissioned rest stop. I knew what had happened. The rest stop had taken him, pulled him into whatever pocket of reality existed inside that building. He was probably there right now, talking to Edra Klein, being told to stay in the common area, looking at security monitors that showed impossible things. How long would he be trapped? Days? Years? Or would time work differently for him, hours stretching into decades while the outside world moved on? I couldn't sleep that night. Kept thinking about Porter, about Boone Merrick, about all 17 missing travelers. All of them caught in the same trap, experiencing the same eternal storm, waiting in the same building that existed outside of normal time. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. It's still here. It's always here. Come back. I blocked the number and tried to forget about it. But 2 nights later, another message from a different number. You left something behind. You need to come get it. I didn't respond. Kept blocking numbers as the messages came in. Sometimes it was text, sometimes voicemails filled with static and distant voices. Always the same message. Come back. The rest stop wanted me. I'd escaped once, but it wasn't finished with me. In August, I was driving through Wyoming when I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a rest area ahead, the sign indicating bathrooms and parking. Standard highway facility. But as I got closer, I recognized the building. Same architecture, same layout as the rest stop on Highway 20. It shouldn't be here. This was Wyoming, hundreds of miles from Nebraska. I drove past without stopping, my heart pounding. In my mirror, I saw the rest area receding. It looked completely normal. Probably was completely normal. Just a standard highway rest stop that happened to have similar architecture. But for a moment, I'd been certain it was the same building, the same trap. Was I losing my mind? Or was the rest stop spreading, manifesting in new locations, reaching for me across state lines? I started seeing it everywhere. A rest area in Montana that looked too familiar. One in South Dakota that gave me an uneasy feeling. Each time I drove past, refusing to stop, terrified that if I pulled in I'd find Edra Klein waiting for me. Other drivers started reporting strange experiences too. I'd hear them on the CB, talking about rest stops where time moved wrong, where the staff seemed off, where security monitors showed impossible things. Different locations, different states, but the same pattern. The phenomenon was spreading. Or maybe it had always been widespread, and I was just noticing it now. How many rest areas across the country were traps? How many buildings existed in pockets of broken time, collecting travelers who never left? In September, I met with a group of drivers who'd had similar experiences. 10 of us total, gathered at a truck stop in Omaha. We shared our stories, compared details, tried to find patterns. Everyone had the same basic experience: an isolated rest stop during a storm, losing time, security monitors showing impossible things, staff who shouldn't be there, and the overwhelming sense that reality wasn't quite right inside the buildings. "It's like there are cracks in the world," one driver said. "Places where normal rules don't apply. These rest stops are built on those cracks, or maybe the cracks formed around them. Either way, they're transitional spaces, doorways to somewhere else. Somewhere else like what? I don't know. Maybe it's a different timeline. Maybe it's a pocket dimension. Maybe it's just a loop in space-time. But people who enter don't always come back the same way, and some don't come back at all." We tried to map the locations, but there was no clear pattern. The affected rest stops were scattered across the northern plains, no obvious connection between them. Some were decommissioned, others were still operational. Some had reported disappearances, others didn't. The only common factor was isolation. These were all rest stops in remote areas far from towns or cities, places where a traveler might be completely alone. "What if it's not about the buildings themselves?" someone suggested. "What if it's about the act of stopping? The moment when you pull off the highway into an isolated space during a storm. That's when you're vulnerable, when the boundary between normal reality and whatever this is becomes thin enough to cross." That idea terrified me more than the others, because if it wasn't about specific locations, if it could happen anywhere under the right conditions, then I could never truly be safe. Any rest stop, any storm, any moment of isolation could become a trap. I kept driving through the fall, but I changed my habits. Never stopped at rest areas anymore, only truck stops with other people around. Never drove during heavy storms, always found somewhere to park and waited out. Never let myself be completely alone in isolated places, but the messages kept coming. Different numbers, always the same content. "Come back. You left something behind. It's waiting for you." In October, I finally responded to one of the messages. What did I leave behind? The response came immediately. "Part of yourself. You can't be whole until you come back and reclaim it." I'm not coming back. You will, eventually. Everyone does. The rest stop is patient. It can wait years, decades, but you'll come back. They always do. I blocked the number and threw my phone across the room, but I knew the message was right. I could feel it, a pull toward Highway 20, toward that rest stop. Part of me wanted to go back, needed to know what had really happened during those missing hours. What if I really had left something behind? What if part of my consciousness was still trapped there, experiencing that eternal storm while my body moved through the real world? The uncertainty was driving me insane. I needed answers, even if getting them meant risking everything. In November, I made a decision. I was going back to the rest stop. Not during a storm, not at night. In broad daylight with clear weather, fully prepared. I'd document everything, prove once and for all what was real and what wasn't. I told several people my plan, left detailed instructions about where I was going and when I should be expected back. Set up automatic messages that would send if I didn't check in every few hours. Then I drove to Highway 20 and headed east from Valentine. The day was clear and cold, temperature in the 20s but no snow. Perfect visibility. I counted off the miles, watching for the rest area sign. 70 miles east of Valentine, I found the turnoff. The sign was still there, though faded and weathered. I pulled onto the access road and drove toward the building. In daylight, it looked exactly as Trooper Vasquez had described. Locked and abandoned. The doors were chained shut. The windows were dark. The parking lot was empty except for drifted snow. I got out of my truck and walked toward the main entrance. Up close, I could see the building was in poor condition. Paint peeling, concrete cracking, weeds growing through the pavement. This was clearly an abandoned structure that hadn't been used in years. I tried the doors, locked tight, chains secured with a padlock. I walked around the building, checking all the entrances. Everything was sealed. This was just an old rest stop, nothing supernatural, nothing trapped in time. Just a building that had outlived its usefulness and been left to decay. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt disappointed. Because if this was just a normal abandoned building, then what had happened to me in January? Had I hallucinated the entire experience? Was Edra Klein a product of my exhausted, storm-addled mind? I stood in the parking lot for a long time, looking at the building, trying to reconcile what I'd experienced with what I was seeing now. They couldn't both be real, unless they were both real in different ways. Different versions of the same location, existing simultaneously. I walked back to my truck and pulled out the CB radio, tuned it to the channel I'd used to talk to Boone Merrick. "Boone, if you can hear me, this is Merritt Halcomb. I'm at the rest stop right now, in daylight. It's just an abandoned building, nothing strange about it." Static for a moment, then a voice. Faint and distant. "Merritt. Can't. Daylight. Only works. Storm." "Boone, is that you?" The signal faded. I tried several more times but got no response. Only works during a storm. That's what he'd been trying to say. The rest stop only manifested its strange properties during certain conditions. Storm, darkness, isolation. Remove those factors and it was just a normal building. I got back in my truck and started to leave. As I pulled onto Highway 20, I glanced in my rearview mirror one last time. Edra Klein was standing in the parking lot watching me drive away. She raised her hand in that same ambiguous gesture somewhere between greeting and warning. I blinked, and she was gone. Just an empty parking lot and an abandoned building. But I'd seen her, in broad daylight on a clear day. Which meant the rest stop's influence wasn't limited to storms. It could reach into normal reality whenever it wanted. It was letting me know that it was still there, still waiting, and one day, under the right conditions, I'd come back. Not by choice, but because some part of me was already there, had always been there, would always be there. Walking those endless hallways, watching that unchanging snow, waiting for a storm that would never clear. Winter returned, and with it the dreams. Every night, I was back in the rest stop, wandering its corridors, looking for an exit that didn't exist. Sometimes I'd find Edra in her maintenance uniform, cleaning floors that were already clean. Sometimes I'd see Porter or Boone or the man from the security monitors, all of them trapped in their own loops. And sometimes I'd see myself, sitting in the common area, staring at nothing, waiting for something that would never come. I'd wake up at 3:27 a.m., same time every night, heart pounding, unsure which version of reality was real. The one where I was safe in a motel room, or the one where I'd never left the rest stop at all. In December, the State Patrol called me again. They'd found Porter's truck. It was parked at the rest stop, had been there the whole time, but somehow no one had seen it until now. The doors were locked, keys in the ignition. No sign of Porter. "How is that possible?" I asked Trooper Vasquez. "You searched the area in January. You said there was no truck." I know what I said, but it's here now, like it just appeared. Or like it was always there, and you couldn't see it until now. That doesn't make sense, Mr. Halcombe. None of this makes sense, that's the point. They impounded the truck, searched it for clues, found Porter's phone, wallet, personal belongings, everything except Porter himself. The investigation was still ongoing, but everyone knew they'd never find him. He was still in the rest stop, experiencing his own version of that night, unable to escape. Just like Boone, just like the others. And part of me was still there too. I could feel it more clearly now. That phantom limb sensation of existing in two places at once. My body was in the real world, driving routes and making deliveries. But my consciousness was split, part of it forever walking those hallways, watching that eternal snow. On December 23rd, I was driving through South Dakota when the storm hit. Not gradually, but all at once, just like the storm in January. 1 minute clear skies, the next minute whiteout conditions. I knew what it meant. The rest stop was calling to me again, creating the conditions it needed to manifest fully. I tried to find a town, somewhere safe to wait it out. But the storm was disorienting, visibility dropping to zero. I couldn't tell which direction I was heading, couldn't read the road signs through the snow. Then I saw the rest area sign. Familiar architecture, familiar layout. But this wasn't Highway 20. This was Highway 14 in South Dakota, 200 miles from the Nebraska rest stop. The building looked identical anyway. I could keep driving, try to push through the storm, or I could pull in, knowing what would probably happen. I made my choice, pulled into the parking lot and stopped the engine. The building was dark, but the door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped inside, into that familiar lobby with vending machines and information desk and hallways leading deeper into the structure. Edra Klein was waiting for me. "Welcome back, Merritt," she said. "I knew you'd return eventually. This isn't the same building. This is South Dakota, not Nebraska. It's always the same building. The location doesn't matter. The rest stop exists in all places and no places. It's a junction point where different realities intersect. Why do you trap people here? I don't trap anyone. The building does. I'm just as trapped as you are. I've been here since 2015, since the night I died on Highway 20. This is my afterlife, maintaining a rest stop that doesn't exist, helping travelers who can't leave. Then help me leave. You already left once. You can leave again, but you keep coming back because part of you needs to understand, needs to know what this place really is." She walked toward the hallway, gesturing for me to follow. "Come with me, I'll show you." We walked through corridors I'd seen before, past the common area where the man still sat in his chair, through doors marked employees only. The building seemed to expand as we moved through it, hallways extending farther than should be possible. We reached a door I hadn't seen before. Edra unlocked it and led me into a room filled with security monitors. Not just 4 screens like in the main lobby, but dozens of them covering every wall. Each monitor showed a different rest stop, a different location. All of them looked similar but not identical. Different states, different highways, different time periods based on the vehicles in the parking lots. "These are all the same building," Edra said. "Different manifestations, different moments in time. The rest stop exists outside normal space-time, connects to multiple locations simultaneously. When travelers stop at any of these places under the right conditions, they enter the same pocket reality." I looked at the screens. Some showed current scenes, others looked like they were from decades ago based on the vehicles and clothing. All of them showed travelers in various states of confusion or distress. How many people are trapped here? I don't know. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Time doesn't work normally here, so people from different eras all exist simultaneously. The man in the common area arrived in 1987. Porter came last January. To them, no time has passed. To the outside world, decades have gone by. Why? What's the purpose of this place? I don't think it has a purpose. I think it's an accident, a glitch in reality. Maybe it was created when they closed the original rest stop, when they severed it from the highway system. Or maybe it's always existed, and the rest stops were built on top of it. Either way, it's a trap. Not malicious, just inevitable. Like a black hole that catches anything that gets too close. I looked at the monitors again, at all those trapped travelers. Is there any way to free them? I don't know. I've tried everything I can think of. The only people who've ever escaped are the ones who drove off the road before they fully entered the building. Once you're inside, once you've spent enough time here, you become part of it. The rest stop claims you. How long is enough time? It varies. For some people, minutes. For others, hours. There's a threshold, a point of no return. Once you cross it, you can't leave anymore. You become part of the loop. How much time do I have? She looked at me with sad eyes. Merritt, you've been here for 3 days. I checked my phone. She was right. The date was December 26th. I'd lost 3 days, just like the old driver had told me about his experience. I need to leave. Now. You can try, but I don't think you'll make it this time. You're too integrated with the rest stop now. Too much of you exists here. I ran for the exit, back through the hallways, past the common area. Porter was there now, sitting next to the man from 1987, both of them staring at nothing. They didn't acknowledge me as I passed. I reached the main lobby and pushed through the door into the storm. My truck was in the parking lot, but so were dozens of other vehicles now, all of them empty, all of them waiting for drivers who would never return. I got in my truck and started the engine. It turned over normally. I put it in gear and started driving toward the exit. The parking lot seemed to expand as I moved through it, the exit receding like a mirage. I kept going, my speedometer showing 40 miles per hour, but the distance never closed. After an hour, I stopped. The exit was still impossibly far away. I was trapped in the parking lot just like the travelers were trapped in the building. I got out and walked back toward the main entrance. Edra was standing in the doorway. "I told you," she said. "You can't leave anymore. You've crossed the threshold." There has to be a way. If there is, I haven't found it in 9 years of trying. I sank down onto a bench in the lobby, the reality of my situation settling over me. I was trapped, really, permanently trapped. My body would be here forever, or at least until someone found it in the real world. But my consciousness would remain, experiencing the same moments over and over, watching the same snow fall at the same angle for eternity. What do I do now? I asked. What everyone does. You wait, you exist. You watch the monitors, see new people arrive, watch them try to leave. Sometimes they make it, most times they don't. And you try to maintain some sense of self, even as time loses meaning and reality becomes fluid. This can't be all there is. It isn't. Some travelers find ways to cope. They create routines, tell themselves stories, hold on to memories of the outside world. Others lose themselves completely, become part of the building's background, like the man in the common area. He doesn't speak anymore, doesn't move unless someone addresses him directly. He's become a fixture. I thought about my family, my wife, my dispatcher. In the real world, they'd be looking for me. Would they find my truck in this parking lot, or would it be invisible like Porter's had been? Would they declare me missing, hold a memorial service, move on with their lives while I existed in this timeless pocket? Edra, the messages I was getting, texts and calls telling me to come back, was that you? No. That was the rest stop itself. It has a kind of consciousness, or maybe it's just a pattern seeking to complete itself. It knew you'd escaped, knew you'd left part of yourself behind. It wanted you to return to restore balance. And now I have. Yes, you're complete now. The version of you in the real world and the version here are reunited. You're whole again, even if it means being trapped. I sat there for a long time, trying to process this. Eventually, I got up and walked to the security monitors. I could see the common area on one screen. Porter and the man from 1987 were still sitting there, but now there was a third person. It was me, sitting in a chair, staring at nothing, already becoming part of the rest stop's permanent collection. That's you in the present moment, Edra said. And this is you in the past, watching yourself. Time loops here. You'll experience both versions simultaneously until you can't tell them apart anymore. Over the following days or weeks or months, I couldn't tell which, I explored the rest stop fully. I walked every hallway, opened every door, met other trapped travelers. Each one had a similar story. Stopped during a storm, encountered something strange, tried to leave but couldn't. Some of them had been here for decades. One woman said she'd arrived in 1973. She'd been driving to a job interview when a blizzard forced her to stop. That was 40 years ago for the outside world, but to her it felt like maybe a few months. Time compresses here, she explained. Hours feel like minutes. Days feel like hours. You could spend a decade in this building and it would feel like a long weekend. That's terrifying. It's a mercy, in a way. If we experience time normally, the isolation would drive us insane. This way we can endure it. I started to understand the rhythm of the rest stop. New travelers would arrive during storms, confused and frightened. Edra would greet them, tell them to stay in the common area. Most would listen. Some would explore and discover the truth. A few would try to leave and succeed. Most would fail and join the permanent population. I tried to help the newcomers, warned them about the time dilation, the point of no return, the importance of leaving quickly before they became integrated. Sometimes they listened. Mostly they didn't. On what felt like my 100th day, but might have been my 10th, I found Boone Merrick. He was in a back hallway, walking the same 30-foot section over and over, muttering to himself. "Boone, it's Merritt. We talked on the CB." He looked at me with recognition. "Merritt, you made it to the rest stop. I escaped once, but I came back. I told you to get out. Why did you come back? I didn't have a choice. The rest stop called me, created conditions that forced me to stop." He nodded like this made perfect sense. It does that. Creates storms, manifests in new locations, sends messages. Whatever it takes to bring people in, it needs us for some reason. What reason? I don't know. Maybe we're food. Maybe we're fuel. Maybe we're just witnesses, consciousness required to keep this pocket of reality stable. Idra has theories, but no one knows for sure. We walked together through the building, two trapped travelers sharing our experience. Boone showed me areas I hadn't discovered yet, rooms that seemed to serve no purpose, hallways that curved in impossible geometries. "The building is larger than it appears from outside," he said. "Interior space doesn't match exterior dimensions. You could walk for days and never see the same room twice. Have you tried?" "Many times. Always end up back in the common area eventually. It's the center point, the anchor. Everything loops back to it." In the common area, the population had grown. I counted 23 people now, all sitting quietly, all staring at nothing. Some I recognized from my earlier explorations. Others were new, recently arrived, and already succumbing to the building's influence. I sat down among them and watched the windows. The snow fell at its constant angle, never varying, never accumulating. The perfect, eternal storm. This was my life now. Watching snow that never changed, walking hallways that never ended, existing in moments that folded back on themselves endlessly. But something Edra had said kept nagging at me. She'd mentioned that some people escaped. Not many, but some, which meant there had to be a way out, even after crossing the threshold. I started talking to every traveler I could find, asking about their escape attempts. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The people who'd escaped had all done something similar. They'd stopped trying to leave through conventional means. Doors, windows, driving away, none of that worked once you were trapped. Instead, they'd found anomalies, glitches in the rest stop's reality. Moments when the loop stuttered or the building's geometry shifted. In those moments, if you were paying attention, you could slip through. Back to normal reality. Back to the real world. It required patience and observation. You had to watch for the glitches, recognize them when they happened, and act immediately. Most travelers missed them, too focused on finding conventional exits to notice the unconventional ones. I started watching carefully, studying the building's patterns, looking for moments when things didn't quite align. It took what felt like weeks, but I finally saw one. A door in the hallway flickered. For just a second, it showed two different images: the interior of a storage closet and a view of Highway 14 in South Dakota. Normal reality, visible through a gap in the rest stop's pocket dimension. I ran for the door and threw it open. The storage closet was still there, but beyond it I could see the highway. Real road, real world, real time. I stepped through and found myself standing on the shoulder of Highway 14 in bright sunlight, with no snow falling. My truck was parked 100 yards away at a rest stop that looked nothing like the building I'd just left. I checked my phone. The date was December 27th. I'd lost 4 days this time. But I was out. Really, permanently out. I got in my truck and drove away without looking back. Didn't stop until I'd crossed 3 state lines and put 500 miles between myself and that rest stop. But I know I'm not truly free. Part of me is still there, will always be there. Sitting in the common area, watching that eternal snow, trapped in a moment that never progresses. And some nights, when I close my eyes, I'm not sure which version is real. The one driving trucks across America, or the one still walking those endless hallways, looking for a glitch that might set me free. Maybe both versions exist simultaneously. Maybe I'm experiencing them both. My consciousness split between liberation and imprisonment. Or maybe I never escaped at all. Maybe I'm still in that building, dreaming of freedom, while my body sits frozen in a chair, becoming part of the rest stop's permanent collection. The road crews found the rest stop 3 months later. They were doing maintenance on Highway 14 when they discovered it, locked and abandoned, no signs of recent use. When they broke in to inspect the facility, they found 24 people inside. All of them were alive but unresponsive, sitting in a common area, staring at nothing. Medical personnel couldn't explain their condition. No physical injuries, no signs of trauma. They were just somewhere else. Consciousness departed. Bodies left behind. I heard about it on the news. Saw the footage of them being carried out on stretchers loaded into ambulances. I recognized some of the faces. Porter. Boone. The man from 1987. And one of them looked like me. Same build, same features. But I'm here, watching this on television, so it can't be me. Can it? Unless there are 2 versions. The one who escaped, and the one who stayed behind. Both of us real, both of us existing, both of us convinced we're the genuine Merritt Halcombe. I'll never know which version I am, the free one or the trapped one. And in a way, it doesn't matter, because I still drive the highways, still make deliveries, still watch for rest stops that feel wrong, still check my phone at 3:27 every morning, counting the minutes to make sure time is moving properly. Still wondering if I ever really left that building, or if everything since has been an elaborate dream conjured by a consciousness that can't accept its imprisonment. The highway stretches endlessly ahead. The snow falls at a constant angle. The rest stop is always there, just off the next exit, waiting. And I keep driving because what else can I do? Whether I'm free or trapped, moving or stationary, real or imagined, the only choice is to keep going forward. Into the storm. Into the endless white. Forever.